Hello, everyone, and welcome to the class today. I am C. Ridhima Bhatia, and today we'll be continuing our deductions discussion. Basically, we are discussing your gross total income as the deductions which are allowed to the SSE. Last class, we started with the overview, understanding, and in detail, we covered section 80C. Wish you all a very good evening. So please settle in so that we can start now. Good evening, Ankita. Good evening, Ginny. Anyone has any doubt from the previous class? Would be happy to take it. No doubts, nothing, everything is clear. Nice, everything is clear. Perfect. So I hope you're maintaining that sort of a sheet which will help you understand. Let's say ATC may you saw date 1,50,000 is the deduction available only to individual HF at some point available to when the individual is making contributions or payments for their family, which is spouse and children. Dependency is not a criteria. A question can come to confuse you that dependent is written and you might not take up the deduction for non-dependent. No. So ATC dependency is not the criteria. So today we'll continue our discussion on further points which is in respect to the deductions allowed for payments. See, students, wherever income tax give benefits, now they either give the benefit to promote a certain thing, they either give a benefit to achieve their ultimate goal, or to promote a certain industry or any sort of facility, या उनका कोई achievable goal है. Like there were many deductions and disallowances when it comes to digital cash, when it comes to discouraging cash payments. Similarly, you will see to promote social security. That means promote retirement benefits. They have deductions in respect to PF contributions or superannuation contributions. So, to promote health insurances, they have deductions in relation to your health insurance contribution. So basically, they want that you make an investment in a way which secure your life or achieve their goal, and also is an incentive to save tax. Correct. So that is all we are continuing to our discussion when it comes to payments related deductions. So the next one which we'll be picking up now is your 80cc. But before going to 80cc, it's nothing very different from 80c, and it's not very. I have not seen question coming from it. Just one second. Okay. So a less sort of question comes from it. Good evening, Mitali. From 80 triple C. Now, this is also regarding an annuity plans of LIC. If you're making premiums into annuity plans of LIC or any other insurer, you will get a deduction under this. Now, interesting part which you all have to focus in the part which I'm writing, 80C plus 80CC plus 80CCD. 80C plus 80 triple C plus 80 CCD subsection 1, all in aggregate has a maximum deduction of 1,50,000. So this is like you have individually 1,50,000 for this, and this. But when you aggregate them, then also in total you have maximum 1,50,000. So whenever you're doing a question, you'll write ATC mein what all eligible deductions are there, what all eligible investments are there. Then you will write restricted to 1,50,000. Okay, if they're crossing 1,50,000. Then you will see ATC, C, and then you see ATCCD. Subsection 1. I've written subsection 1. Please focus here. We'll come to that. You'll write their individual deductions. When you have written their individual deductions, then on the outer column you will restrict it to 1,50,000, saying as per 80 CCE. It's written in 80 CCE. These three deductions though have individual limits of 1,50,000, but they in combined can also not cross 1,50,000. Now coming to the section which is very, very, very important is 80 CCD subsection 1. Please listen carefully this particular section. Now, this is particularly for your contributions made to Atal Pension Yojana. A question can come like this, or your NPS, National Pension System, NPS. So question में अगर अटल पेंशन योजना लिखा होगा, do not worry that कौन सा section has to be applied. So whenever you're making a contribution to Atal Pension Yojana or NPS or any CG pension scheme basically, then it is eligible for deduction under 80 CCD. Pension, yes, there were many pensions plan which we saw under your ATC also, but they were not Atal Pension or National Pension System. They were a separate mechanism of LICs and certain certified like Tata AIGs and UTIs. Here we are talking about Atal Pension Yojana and NPS. Now, what happens here? Let me tell you how the contribution things happen. So, you as a contributor will make, again, this is accumulation of funds, this is accumulation of corpus, will make contribution into a account which is open in your name, NPS में, ठीक है? Now every year the NPS will get accumulated by the contribution which you're making plus the return which this fund is having. Now, how this return is actually determined, so this is not given anywhere in the book. This is a mechanism which happens in real life. So please understand how this return actually happens. When you make a contribution, you decide that where do you want this fund to be invested? You want funds to be invested in government securities, you want fund to be invested in market, you want fund to be invested in debt securities or a combination of both. So there are different portfolio managers in which you decide to invest, and then they further invest this fund. This is not something related to tax, but I'm telling you something related to real life working. Okay. So you make contribution here, accumulation हो रहा है, and then that paisa is being utilized as per your wish to a type of portfolio you select. Then every year there is a return. Obviously, when you will be going for an equity related portfolio, the risk would be higher, but the return would also be higher if everything goes well. If you're going for a government one, obviously the returns would be as per around 7-8%. So Nana Karte, every year you can get an NPS return anywhere between 18 to 14%. Return in the sense your wealth is getting accumulated with an interest of 8 to 14%. This is just for all my investment heads person sitting there. Okay? So now coming to the tax purpose. So as I was telling you, NPS may you put the money, there is a return, and then there is obviously a withdrawal stage. Now, withdrawal happens, I think, at the age of 58 years when you retire. Withdrawal happens in a way that you can have a lump sum when you will be closing the account to an extent of 60%, and the remaining up to, this is your choice, okay? And the remaining continues to as pension. Okay, so pension आता रहेगा so that until your death, the funds are secured, you will be getting certain money, there will be an income even if you are retired. So it's like a social security retirement benefits fund. The interesting part here is, friends, you have to understand taxability when you're making the contribution. Obviously, you will be having a thought of what is the taxability of this return. Then you will be having a thought of, ma'am, what is the taxability of this lump sum amount when we will be receiving it at the closure of the fund? Ma'am, what is the taxability of this pension? Correct? And also, you would be having a thought, what if in this entire period we want to withdraw? Necessary only on closure there would be a withdrawal, or it can be a premature withdrawal also. Partial withdrawal is allowed. So all this now we'll be discussing. Yes, since we're discussing deductions, the first focus is obviously on the contribution, because the deduction part under section 80 CCD comes from the contribution. These all are basically you have to see under section 10 or under the respective head where these would be getting taxed. अभी हम आउटफ्लो कर रहे हैं तो आउटफ्लो के टाइम पे वी विल सी what are the deductions benefit available for NPS. When there would be an inflow from the fund, then we'll see from the income taxability perspective. Got it? So अभी हम contribution पे आ जाते हैं, then we'll be coming back to this flow chart. Anywhere, if you have any doubt, please tell me then and there. Okay. So now coming to the contribution, there can be again two stages. The contribution can be done by either you yourself, or the contribution can be done by the employer-employee mix. So employer making the contribution and employee making the contribution, matching contribution, not necessary. You can discuss basically how much you want. And here only an individual making a contribution. So when suppose I am in an organization, NPS scheme is not there. So I'm making in my individual contribution. Will I get deduction? Yes. So when an employer and employee is making a deduction, first we'll come to this particular perspective. Every month or maybe once a year, employer is making a certain amount to my contribution to my fund, and employee is making the contribution to that particular fund. Now, the whatever employer is making, that my friend is a salary. Whenever the contribution is made, first impact is salary. Why it is salary? See, any contribution which an employer is making, think yourself as an assessee, okay? Which an employer is making to the funds or for the benefits of the employee is always salary as a perquisite. Then we see how much is tax. PF contribution is not taxed up to 12%. Similarly, superannuation contribution is not taxed. Similarly, your NPS contribution is taxed at first instance. It is a part of a salary. Whatever contribution they are making would always be part of your salary. Please mark it crystal clear. Second impact, my friends, would be it would be allowed as deduction. Deduction under section 80 CCD subsection 2. This is the second impact. First is it is getting taxed as salary. Then down under your gross total income, it would be allowed as deduction. Both. So in a way, if you are qualified for the 100% deduction here, in a way, nothing is taxed for the employer contribution made to the salary, made to the NPS, right? अब पीएफ में क्या होता है, पीएफ में टैक्स ही नहीं होता up to 12%, तो इसलिए you never see the employer contribution getting taxed. And this along with the PF contribution and this along with your SF superannuation contribution should not cross 7,50,000. उससे ज्यादा होगा तो वो perquisite बन जाएगा. This is part of your salary thing. This is nothing in relation to deductions. So second deduction, second for the same contribution, first impact is first it would be treated as salary. Second, it would be allowed as deduction under 80 CCD subsection 2. Even if employee is not making, the assessee is not making this contribution, still he is allowed as deduction under section 80 CCD subsection 2. So in a way, this is clear that there would be no deduction for an individual who is self-making a contribution without the employer under 80 CCD 2, correct? उसके लिए तो there would be no deductions. Yes or no? Obviously, there's no employer, so how would 80 CCD subsection 2 come into the picture? Correct? Correct. Now, what about the employee contribution? Now, employee contribution and individual contribution both gets divided into two sections. So there are two sections. One section is 80 CCD subsection 1 and 80 CCD subsection 1B. Please everyone focus here and लिखा है मैंने और नहीं लिखा, ठीक है? So the contribution you can claim as deduction in either or both of the sections 80 CCD subsection 1 and 80 CCD subsection 1B. 1B has a maximum limit of 50,000 and 1 has a maximum limit of the actual contribution you are making or 10% of salary. I have written 14%. Please mark this as star. I'll explain. We'll do the question also. But when we are talking about this individual who does not have salary, then how would we compare it under 80 CCD subsection 1? Then the maximum deduction is actual contribution or 20% of gross total income. अब यहाँ पे 20% क्यों दे दिया? Because simple सा है, when we are talking about an employee, he is getting 3 deductions in subsection 1, subsection 1B and your सबसेक्शन 2 ऑल्सो, सबसेक्शन 2 में एम्प्लॉयर कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन को मिल रहा है, इंडिविजुअल को तो कुछ नहीं मिल रहा, सो इंडिविजुअल के लिए इसको थोड़ा सा चेंज करते हैं इसलिए। इंडिविजुअल अदरवाइज इज नॉट गेटिंग एनीथिंग, दिस इज 10% ऑफ सैलरी ओनली, ठीक है, सॉरी, और एक्चुअल कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन और 20% ऑफ ग्रॉस टोटल इनकम। यू विल बी लाइक कि मैम ये समझ नहीं आया कि सबसेक्शन 1 में भी मिल रहा है, सबसेक्शन 1B में भी मिल रहा है, हाउ? सो दिस व्हाई फर्स्ट 1B is there? First of all, as I told you at the beginning of the class, ATCCD subsection 1 gets combined with the total limit of 1,50,000 per deduction, right? So this scheme was not getting attractive because any which way ATC exhaust हो जाता था, तो people were not very keen to put money in the national pension scheme because subsection 1 में अगर deduction मिल भी गया, even if you get money in subsection 1 of deduction under section ATCCD subsection 1, still if when it combines with your ATC, it was restricted to 1,50,000. So to make this scheme attractive, they introduced, matlab they had another section, subsection 1B, where they said this is additional 50K which you will get as deduction. Additional 50K something which you will get as a deduction. Now, कोई भी समझदार होगा, if anyone who is sensitive enough was smart enough, he will first utilize from the actual contribution this amount. You will say why? Because this is standalone free 50,000. And then if any money is left from the actual contribution, then I will use this amount. Why? Because this I will get subsection 1 में, but then again a comparison of it will come under ATC and then I have to see 1,50,000 से ज्यादा है या नहीं, right? So कहीं पे restricted नहीं है, at first you have to take this and then you have to take this, but it is common sense that to optimize tax benefit, first you will take subsection 1B ka benefit for the actual contribution and then you will take subsection 1 ka benefit. If my total contribution is only 40,000, so I will take subsection 1B में completely 40,000. If suppose my total contribution is 90,000, so first I will take 50,000 here, okay? Then कितना बचा? 40,000. 40,000 को I will compare it with my 10% of salary. Whichever is lower, I will take that. I will take that. ठीक है, and then third step would be to compare ATC plus ATCCC plus ATCCD subsection 1 and see कि 1,50,000 is coming or not. So actual contribution of 10% of salary for an employee and actual contribution of 20% of GTI for an individual. ATCCD subsection 1B दोनों को मिलता है. उस subsection 1 में first अगर employee है तो actual contribution and comparison of 10% of salary. If individual है other than an employee, actual contribution of 20% of GTI. Got it? Then now what is the deduction under section ATCCD subsection 2? इसमें क्या डिडक्शन है? इसमें भी सेम डिडक्शन है, एक्चुअल कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन जो भी एम्प्लॉयर का होगा, एम्प्लॉयर का एक्चुअल कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन ER आई एम राइटिंग, और 10% ऑफ सैलरी whichever is lower. Now this year they have made made an amendment. This year they have made it actual contribution or 14% of salary if an employee is claiming 115 BAC. So can I say 115 BAC, who is the person who is not opting out of 115 BAC, or who is the person who is paying tax as per the default tax regime, can claim ATCCD subsection 2, can claim ATCCD subsection 2, that is for the employer contribution. For his contribution, he is still not allowed to claim ATCCD subsection 1 or subsection 1B, but for the employer contribution, he can claim ATCCD subsection 2. This is the first deduction which is allowed for an individual who is claiming your tax regime of the new tax regime. Okay. So now, actual contribution or 10% of salary, then actual contribution of 15% or 14% of salary if you are an employee paying tax as per 115 BAC. And for government employees and state government employees, it was always actual contribution of 14% of salary. Now the question is, ma'am, what is this salary which you are referring? Salary here is the same salary which you do for your other exemptions, which is basic plus dearness allowance forming part of the retirement benefits or forming part of the employment plus percentage based commission. Basic plus day of retirement benefit plus percentage based commission. ठीक है, ये सैलरी हम एचआर एग्जेम्पशन के लिए भी यूटिलाइज, दिस सैलरी यूज फॉर ग्रेचुइटी एग्जेम्पशन आल्सो, दिस इज यूटिलाइज फॉर अ लॉट ऑफ प्लेस. सो नाउ लेट्स रैप इट अप. The ATCCD pura kahani. Now ATCCD, please listen carefully everyone here. ATCCD has three subsections, subsection 1, subsection 1B and subsection 2. Subsection 2 is only for employer contributions deduction. I know I'm to consider myself as an assessee. Whatever employer has contributed to NPS is part of my salary when I'm computing salary. Then coming to the gross total income, I will claim the deduction under ATCCD subsection 2. This type of deduction, subsection 2 deduction, is allowed to everyone. 115 BAC person also, 115 BAC no person also. The deduction is allowed up to actual contribution or 10% of salary. If the person is someone who has claimed who has not opted out of 115 BAC, that means he's paying tax as per the new regime, he or she can claim for the employer contribution, actual contribution or 14% of salary. This is the new amendment which has come, so please be very careful. Also, central government or state government employees are any which way allowed actual contribution of 14% of salary. ठीक है, this is for the employer contribution done and dusted. अब employer को खुद की रिटर्न में कहाँ बेनिफिट आता है? अंडर सेक्शन 36 subsection 1, right, which we saw. वहां पे it's a deduction for the from the business expenses for the employer for the contribution which they are making, right, which we have seen, that is done and dusted. Coming back to the assessee's contribution, that is either he will be doing contribution as employee or he will be doing contribution not as an employee but as an individual. When he is doing contribution as an individual, the deduction under ATCCD subsection 1 is actual contribution or 20% of gross total income. When he is doing contribution as an employee, the deduction under subsection 1 is actual contribution or 10% of salary, whichever is lower. But there is subsection 2 which gives additional 50,000 to both of them, employee or individual, for the contribution which they have made to NPS. So first anyone would claim this 50,000 and then they will claim ATCCD subsection 1. Reason being subsection 1 limits combined with ATC under ATCCE. Clear? We'll do the question, but is this chart clear? You can make the chart any which way you want. You can take the screenshot of it, but tell me if this is clear or not. Italy, Ginny. Perfect. अभी सिर्फ डिडक्शन की बात हो रही थी. Now let's do one question out of this. Interesting. So this is this illustration which is given to you. Mr. Arjun, basic salary is 1 lakh per month. He's entitled to dearness allowance, which is 40% of basic salary. 50% of the dearness allowance forms parts of the retirement benefit. So, matlab 1 lakh ka 40%, which is 40,000, 40,000 ka 50%, which is 20,000. Okay. Both Arjun as the employer contributes 15% of the basic salary. See, the employer and employee can contribute whatever amount they want, whatever percentage of whatever they want. They can contribute 20%, they can contribute a wholesome figure, they can contribute again one basic salary percentage, but the deductions which would be allowed are based on the salary, which is that salary which we talk about. Okay. Examine the tax treatment in respect of such contribution in the hands of Mr. Arjun if he has exercised 115 BAC, say opting out, or if he has exercised and if he stays under the default tax regime. So when he has opted out, that means there would be deduction under section 80 CCD subsection 1, subsection 1B and subsection 2. When he has choose to stay in default tax regime, deduction is only under 80 CCD subsection 2. So let's start. Acha, before going, just try to attempt it once. एक बार अटेम्प्ट करो. Tempted? So let's begin. सबसे पहले we will do the tax treatment of the employer's contribution. Actual contribution that they are making is 15% of the basic salary, which is 15% of 1 lakh per month, total 12 lakh, 1,80,000. ठीक है, सबसे पहले तो 1,80,000 is treated as salary as perquisite. Simple. ये पहले बताना पड़ेगा. Then you have to tell under section 80 CCD subsection 2, there would be a deduction allowed for the employer contribution, which is maximum 10% of the salary, which would be 1 lakh plus 20,000. Correct? 1,20,000 into 12 or 10%, which will come to 1,44,000. Actual contribution is 180. 1,44,000 is 10% of salary. What deduction would be allowed? Obviously, 1,44,000 would be allowed under your ATCCD subsection 2. Got it? Clear. Now we come to ATCCD subsection 1 and subsection 1B. सबसे पहले तो I will quickly claim subsection 1B में 50,000 rupees. I am doing the alternate solution. 50,000 1B में quickly we claimed. अब कितना बच गया? 180 था मेरा actual contribution, right? 180 में से 50 we have already claimed under 1B. कितना actual contribution is left? 1,30,000. Now 1,30,000 को I will be comparing with 10% of my salary, which is 1,44,000 again, which is lower, 130. So 130 I will claim under subsection 1 and 50,000 I will claim under subsection 1B. Simple. Alternate approach is that first you compare 180 and 144, claim 144 and then बचा कितना 180 में से 144 claim हो गया. How much is left? 36,000. See, no contribution can be claimed twice. यहाँ पे उसी contribution को breakup किया है. It's not that कि I'm claiming 180 से ज्यादा का amount. No. ठीक है, बट सेक्शन वाइज डिफरेंशिएट हो गया. दिस इज अ प्रेफरेबल वन बिकॉज यहाँ पे 130 वुड गेट कंबाइंड फॉर योर 80 CCC लिमिट. both the answers are correct. Again, I am saying both the answers are correct. But remember not to take more than 180 as the deduction. के यहाँ पे आपने actual contribution और 10% salary भी कर लिया, 50,000 अलग से दे दिया. No. Okay? Clear? Now, what if the person is still following 115 BAC? So when a person is still following 115 BAC, only deduction is allowed is 80 CCD subsection 2. Salary में 180 तो contribution आ ही गया as perquisite, but 80 CCD subsection 2 में what will be allowed? 14% of salary or actual contribution. Now 14% of salary would be 2,01,600 and actual contribution is 180. So which is lower? 180. So entire 180 is allowed as deduction under 80 CCD subsection 2 when you are following the default tax regime. Is it clear now? सबको अच्छे से समझ आ गया? बिकॉज पीपल रियली गेट कंफ्यूज्ड कि why ATCCD subsection 1, 1, 2 and all that, and we denoted good for 20-30 minutes to understand the basics out of it. Ansha, Ankita, everyone sorted? Perfect. So now we proceed to the remaining questions which are left. अब ये तो contributions जब तक हो रहा है, deductions are coming. Now I told you that every year the wealth is getting accumulated plus interest is getting credited in a manner of return basis the amount where it is invested. So this accumulation which is happening to the corpus is tax free. मतलब every year जो accumulate हो रहा है पैसा, उस पे जो पैसे पे पैसा मिल रहा है is tax free. You don't have to worry about that. What about partial withdrawal? See, partial withdrawal, any person can withdraw partially after 3 years, maximum 3 times. This is written for the NPS. Maximum 3 times they can withdraw, maybe some emergency or anything you require. You can withdraw it. अब जो money you will withdraw, 10-12B में is exempt up to 25%. The 25% is not taxable. उसके ज़्यादा if you will withdraw is taxable. Exempt up to 25%. 25% of what? 25% of the total corpus which is there. ठीक है, तो 25% तक is exempt, उसके ज़्यादा it is taxable. Now what about at the time of closure? So at the time of the closure, whatever will now come as a pension would be taxed as your income. ठीक है, it would be taxed as your income, but whatever lump sum which you're receiving, if you convert withdrawal pay, matlab after the complete closure now, whatever lump sum you're receiving, so up to 60% is exempt under section 10 clause 12A. So 12B में partial withdrawal is exempt, 12A में closure वाला withdrawal is exempt up to 60%. 40% becomes taxable. But 40% जनरली होगा ही नहीं, बिकॉज पेंशन में तो कन्वर्ट करना ही है, राइट? और अगर कोई भी अमाउंट नॉमिनी को मिलता है, सपोज एसएससी का डेथ हो गया, एनी अमाउंट रिसीव बाय नॉमिनी इज एग्जेम्प्ट. बहुत सारे लोग क्या करते हैं, अपने प्रोविडेंट फंड का मनी, सी प्रोविडेंट के लिए देयर इज अ मैक्सिमम लॉक इन पीरियड ऑफ 5 years, दे देन ट्रांसफर इट टू एनपीएस सो दैट आफ्टर रिटायरमेंट वो भी पेंशन की तरह दे रिसीव इट. So that provident fund money which you transfer to NPS, friends, that is also does not attract any tax implications. I can transfer my provident fund money altogether to a superannuation fund and nothing would be taxable. Quickly go through pension scheme, fatafat, 2 minutes, and then we'll proceed to the next section. कोई डाउट इस पर्टिकुलर पार्ट पे?
मैम 20% अभी तक हमने जितनी मतलब जितना उसमें स्कीम में डाल रखा है उसका निकालना है, या फिर कैसे कैलकुलेट करेंगे? 25% हमने कहा ना पार्शियल विड्रॉल इज अलाउड.
25% of the amount of contributions made by the assessee.
अप टू दैट डेट.
Yes. बाकी सारी रिस्ट्रिक्शंस विड्रॉल की एनपीएस की जो गाइडलाइंस है वहां पे है, वो इनकम टैक्स से रिलेटेड नहीं है, बिकॉज restrictions are as per the NPS guideline, taxability is as per the income tax. हाँ, you can take a lump sum of less than 60%, totally up to you. But 60% exempt है, तो लोग पूरा का पूरा 60% ले लेते हैं of the total amount payable at the time of withdrawal, और फिर बाकी को पेंशन में कन्वर्ट कर देते हैं. Because at the time of withdrawal, which is basically retirement age, उस टाइम पे everyone needs fund. See, at your stage, a question can come from withdrawal, a question can come from transfer of provident fund to an NPS, a question can come as basic as calculating the contributions. The point is the question will come because इसमें change है and deduction में one major change is only in this. एक और change है वो बाद में which is not very relevant. पूरे chapter में if any amendment has come is only in this section कि 10% को 14% has been done for employees having paying taxes as per 115 BSA. So if you will, Ankita, you have to decide at which stage you're making a withdrawal at the time of closure. So if you're making a withdrawal at the time of closure, whatever amount you withdraw as lump sum, up to 60% would be exempt. So you can take 40%, 20% withdrawal. जब आप 58 के हो जाते हो, the amount you have to withdraw and the pension starts. You cannot make a contribution beyond 58 years, or if I think it is allowed or not, I have to check the NPS guidelines. But here the point which I'm making is that once you're closing your account, so closer के time पे you have an option to get pension की तरह and you have an option to get the lump sum also. So if you take the lump sum, 60% in fact allow भी नहीं करता more than 70-75% if I am not wrong. Pension में convert करना ही पड़ता है certain amount. चले आगे. Okay. So next deduction is under section 80CCH. Now this is a section which is introduced very recently. This deduction is in respect of contribution to Agnipath scheme. यहाँ पे कहीं पे भी detail में I don't think so Agnipath scheme दिया हुआ है. Let me tell you very quickly what Agnipath scheme actually is. Why, ma'am, why you're telling it? Because I want you to be more knowledgeable. Okay, so Agnipath scheme is basically a scheme which was introduced back 2 years back, almost 2022 में, for getting Agniveers into Indian Armed Force. Indian Armed Force में वो तीनों आते हैं आपका मेन आर्मी, Navy, Air Force, yeah, if I'm not wrong. So Agniveers basically is a term which they introduce. Now, what is Agniveer? Agniveer are children who are almost of the age of 17 and a half to 21. Okay, they can apply to enroll under this scheme. Now, why would one enroll under this scheme? यहाँ पे dual benefit है. एक, to give employment at an early stage. You are automatically part of the Indian Armed Forces, right? And second, government ko, they're getting people in defense and they're providing a way of job to them. So both the things are happening. So कोई भी अग्नि पथ स्कीम में आता है ना from and not me and you cannot employ. Agniveers can only become the Agnipath scheme part, and Agniveers are those people who are engaged for a period of 4 years. ठीक है, they are engaged for a period of 4 years and they are from the age of 17 and a half to 21. तो इसमें क्या होता है? They will be engaged for the period of 4 years. They will work for the defense. Then once their 4 year period is finished, then out of them, total में से 25% will get a selected job in the armed forces, and remaining 75% now can find whatever they want to do. So at an early stage, you're getting money, you're getting defense exposure, and Indian Army is getting people for the defense, right? So up in that 4 year period, when you are engaged with the Indian Armed Forces, what happens? उसमें क्या होता है? In those 4 years, you will be given a monthly fixed package. ठीक है? Suppose you are an Agniveer. I will give you a monthly fixed package of say 30,000. Let's say an example. ठीक है? So you will get 30,000 as salary in your hand? No. You will get 70% of that in your hand. 30% would be retained and would be made by your contribution to Agniveer Corpus Fund. Okay. So now this particular deduction which we are talking about under 80CCH is not available to everyone, but is only available to friends who are the Agniveers. So if you're not Agniveers, if we are not Agniveers, ATCCH is not for us. ATCCH is not for us. So this is only for Agniveer who is getting 30,000 suppose from the government as a salary, okay, initially. So इसमें से this salary is completely taxed as salary under the head salary, right? Then इसमें से in hand he would be given only say 21,000 and remaining would go as a contribution to this Agnipath scheme fund, okay? This 9,000. Now this 9,000 is allowed as deduction under ATCCH. Is allowed as deduction under ATCCH. और साथ साथ गवर्नमेंट क्या करेगी गवर्नमेंट विल आल्सो मेक अ मैचिंग मंथली कंट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ 9,000 सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कंट्रीब्यूशन होगा इन द नेम ऑफ द अग्निवीर and this will go as a deduction under ATCCH again. So this contribution which the government is making would first be part of your salary again, but at the same time would be allowed as deduction, would be allowed as deduction. तो ऐसे क्या होगा every month 9,000 गवर्नमेंट जोड़ रही है 9,000 आप जोड़ रहे हैं by the end of 4 years almost 10 lakhs plus का कॉर्पस जुड़ जाएगा almost 10 lakhs plus का कॉर्पस जुड़ जाएगा because salary में भी every year they would be say a 10% increment. So by the end of 4 years you will have a good corpus and that corpus is yours which is tax free. इसपे interest भी free, इसमें accumulation भी free. You can take that money and utilize it for your growth or your study or your job, whatever way you want to utilize it. So you are getting defense exposure, you are getting salary regularly, and also contribution is getting accumulated every month, which is tax free after 4 years, and which would be a good huge lump sum of 10 lakhs plus, almost 11 lakhs का calculation बैठता है. This is the Agniveer scheme. Now, how does what has to happen? Simple, सारा चीजें clear हो गया इसमें कि the deduction, whichever the contribution which you are making, would be allowed as deduction, and the central government, the contribution which central government is making would be allowed as deduction. But जो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट वाला डिडक्शन होगा वो जो 115 BAC दे रहा है उसको भी मिलेगा. He will also be allowed. Simple. Will a question will come from this? I am not very sure a question can come from this because the year in which it was introduced was actually a very interesting year. Otherwise, I don't think the question can come from it. Okay? Clear? So ATCCH1 में your contribution would be allowed, but not for 115 BAC wala. But central government contribution would be allowed under ATCCH2, which is allowed for both 115 BAC also and normal regime also. ठीक है तो वो अग्निपथ स्कीम का एक एक्स्ट्रा नॉलेज था. आई होप दैट इज यूटिफुल. Now we come to a very, 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 very important common used to section 80D. Deduction in respect of medical insurance premium. ना सबको ये लगता है कि this particular section is only for medical insurance, but it has three components. We'll come to that. We have one question. Yeah, 80cc different है. 80cc अब सब different है. This is 80cc H, which we did अग्निवीर का. Let's start. Perfect. Anyone have any other doubts? सब sorted चल रहा है? Okay. So now we do your next section, which is 80D. ATD talks about deduction in respect of medical insurance premium. सबसे पहले this is again allowed only to individual and HUF, number one. Number two, individual can make contribution for two categories: individual, spouse, dependent children. I use the word dependent children and parents. Parents के लिए I have not used the word dependent. So up a question can come to confuse you: dependent parents, independent children. Please be very careful. Okay? And HUF obviously will make a contribution for any member of the HUF. This is also clear. Now, what is the contribution mode? First of all, the contribution should be in any mode other than cash. Other than cash, except preventive health contribution, which we'll come to it. What is the maximum deduction? So, and individual, पहले हम individual के perspective से समझेंगे. Individual gets two umbrella of deduction. Two umbrella मतलब two categories of deduction would be allowed. One is for parents and one is for his own family. Own family में कौन आ गया? Individual, spouse and dependent children. ठीक है? So this is 25,000 maximum. This is maximum 25,000. Parents मतलब parents does not include your mother-in-law or father-in-law. Parents मतलब खुद के parents. Okay. Now maximum 25,000 here, maximum 25,000 here. But if any one of them, suppose individual is himself a 60 plus year individual and a resident, or I am not 60 plus, but my spouse is 60 plus, or my parents may say any one of the parents is 60 plus, this 25 limit goes to additionally 25, that is 50K here and 50K here. Maximum I'm writing. Okay. So पहले limit समझना is very important. So suppose I am an individual. I am 30-year-old. My parents are 60 plus year old. So the maximum deduction I can claim under 80D would be 75,000. How? 25 मेरा maximum, 50 उनका maximum. If I am 30-year-old, my parents are less than 30. The maximum deduction less than 60. The maximum deduction which would be allowed would be 50,000. 25 मेरा, 25 उनका for me. ठीक है? Clear? If I am 60 plus, my parents obviously are 60 plus, then maximum deduction allowed would be 1 lakh. ठीक है? बट अब क्वेश्चन कम्स कि मैम डिडक्शन किस चीज का मिलेगा? डिडक्शन मिलता है फ्रेंड्स ऑफ द मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम विच आई एम पेइंग एवरी ईयर. प्रीमियम जो आप अपनी हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस या मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस को एक्टिव रखने के लिए एवरी ईयर विच यू पे इज अलाउड एज डिडक्शन. ठीक है? यहाँ पे सेल्फ फैमिली लिख रही हूं मैं, यानी खुद की फैमिली, यहाँ पे पेरेंट्स. ठीक है? तो दोनों के लिए दैट इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम इज अलाउड एज डिडक्शन प्रोवाइडेड नॉन कैश मोड. बी, कोई सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट हेल्थ स्कीम है सीजीएचएस, जनरली सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉइज के लिए होती है, उसमें कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन जाता है बहुत बेसिक सा टू कीप इट एक्टिव. सो वो कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन इज ऑल्सो अलाउड एज डिडक्शन हियर. So what types of eligible expenditures are there which are allowed? One is premium, one is central government health scheme का contribution, and C is preventive health checkup. Preventive health checkup क्या होता है? Where you are not actually getting a medical treatment, but just a diagnosis, just to check as a precaution. It can be medicine bills, it can be regular test bills, it can be a doctor prescription bill, anything for just keeping your health check. That's it. That is called preventive health checkup. So ये सब मिला के 25K each limit है until unless someone is a senior citizen. ठीक है? और इसकी मैक्सिमम प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ चेकअप पे आई कैन मैक्सिमम मेक अ खर्चा ऑफ 5K एंड दिस 5K इज कंबाइंड लिमिट, पेरेंट्स का भी मिला के और मेरा भी मिला के. ठीक है? सो द मैक्सिमम खर्चा विच आई कैन मेक इज 5,000 ओनली एंड दिस कैन बी इन कैश. ओनली दिस कैन बी इन कैश. सॉर्टेड? जैसे ही कोई सीनियर सिटीजन हुआ तो दिस 25 का ब्रैकेट वुड इंक्रीज बाय अनदर 25, तो 50-50K हो जाएगा. अब एक और खर्चा इसमें इंटरेस्टिंगली अलाउड होता है विच मेनी पीपल डू नॉट नो, इज द मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट खर्चा. मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट एक्सपेंस, यानी ट्रीटमेंट इज डिफरेंट, प्रीमियम इज डिफरेंट. प्रीमियम इज यूर पेइंग एवरी मंथ, ट्रीटमेंट इज व्हेन यू गेट हॉस्पिटलाइज्ड एंड यू हैव टू स्पेंड द मनी ऑन दैट. Okay, so medical treatment expenditure is allowed, but only for who? Only for a person who is a senior citizen obviously a resident senior citizen, and has no insurance, then the medical treatment का खर्चा is also allowed as expenditure. So obviously अगर मैं senior citizen को ही मिलता है तो यानी ये तब मिलेगा जब 50K वाली लिमिट अप्लाई हो रही है, right? And the senior citizen has no insurance. Now suppose X has father and mother, father and mother. Okay. Now father has insurance, mother does not have insurance. फादर का मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट पे खर्चा हो रहा है एंड मदर का भी मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट पे खर्चा हो रहा है, बट फादर का मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस का प्रीमियम यू विल बी अलाउड हियर, बट फादर का मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट वुड नॉट बी अलाउड हियर बिकॉज ही हैज एन इंश्योरेंस, बट मदर का मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट का खर्चा वुड बी अलाउड हियर बिकॉज शी डज नॉट हैव एन इंश्योरेंस. देन दोनों का मिला के 50K के ब्रैकेट में यू हैव टू क्लेम द डिडक्शन. क्लियर? सॉर्टेड? और एचयूएफ अपने कोई भी मेंबर पे करेगा फॉर द प्रीमियम वुड बी अलाउड एज डिडक्शन, और अगर कोई मेंबर 60+ है देन अगेन एचयूएफ के लिए भी लिमिट 50,000 हो जाएगी टोटल. इसी समझदारी से अगर हमें एकदम क्लियर हो गया तो लेट्स डू वन क्वेश्चन, देन इससे और क्लियर हो जाएगा. ओके. नो, मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट मिताली, ट्रीटमेंट मीन्स when there is some disease or some problem and then you are getting treatment. Regular checkup is different. तभी मैंने उसको अलग अलग लिखा है. Now do a question for Mr. Ravi. He's age 45 years. Age mark karna is very important. Paid medical insurance premium of 22,000 during the year to ensure his health as well as health of his spouse. Okay. He also paid medical insurance premium of 47,000 during the year for the father who is age 65, who is not dependent on him. Okay. He contributed 4,600 to central government health scheme during the year. He has incurred 3,000 in cash on preventive health checkup. Cash है, कोई problem नहीं है. Of himself and spouse and 4,500 by preventive health checkup of his father. Okay. Compute the deduction allowable under section 80D for the assessment year 25-26 and clearly question में लिखा होगा that the person has opted out of 115 BC. Remember students, if you're doing any question of deductions, please make sure that if it is not written, you write it that the person has opted out of 115 BSc. ठीक है? Quickly attempt. And when we talk about resident senior citizen not having insurance but getting medical treatment, we're talking about resident senior citizen. Dependency of father or not is not a question. Dependency of children is a question in 80D. Quickly try to attempt. First write the kharchas which are allowed with the amount, then write the maximum amount. So if we have to do it for यहाँ पे I'm writing for Ravi and left right में I will write about his parents. ठीक है? Correct answer. So Ravi के लिए it would be 22,000 allowed, yes. और 3,000 कैश प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ चेकअप है, ठीक है. एंड कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन है 4,600. बट ऑब्वियसली दिस एंड दिस में ही कवर हो गया विच कम्स टू 25,000. ठीक है. फादर के लिए 47,000, he's dependent or not does not matter, plus 4,500, right? Total 50,000 allowed. बट रिमेंबर एक और चीज ध्यान से कि प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ चेकअप दोनों का कंबाइंड लिमिट 5,000 है, यानी 3,000 अगर रवि को मिल रहा होता तो मैक्सिमम 2,000 फादर को मिलता। ठीक है, अगर बिकॉज यहाँ पे तो 3,000 यूज ही नहीं हुआ, इज व्हाट आई एम सेइंग। If 3,000 would have utilized in the 25,000 limit, then maximum 2,000 would have been given to the father. Please remember that the limit is combined 5,000 for preventive health checkup, and that can be done in cash. Again, I'll repeat, please be careful that जहाँ पे भी question 60 plus का आया, make sure that to see that the person is resident and medical treatment can also be covered here.
तो मैम यहाँ पर अगर ये पेरेंट का 2,000 अगर यानी यहाँ पर, एक्सक्यूज मी मैम,
मैं समझाती हूँ। शायद आपको जो डाउट है, सपोज यहाँ पे ये 4,600 होता ही नहीं, ठीक है, 22,000 और 3,000 होता, 25,000 यू वुड हैव क्लेम्ड हियर, ठीक है। तो 3,000 का प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ चेकअप आपने ऑलरेडी क्लेम कर लिया। तो यहाँ पे इवन इफ 4,500 खर्चा हुआ, मैक्सिमम यू कैन क्लेम ओनली 2,000 ऑफ प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ चेकअप। 3,000 यहाँ क्लेम हो गया, 5,000 का लिमिट है प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ चेकअप को। ओके, सो 3,000 यहाँ पे क्लेम हो गया, सो मैक्सिमम 2,000 लोगे तभी 49,000 हो जाएगा।
ये
Got it?
अगर ये 3,000 यहाँ पे होता और ये क्लेम नहीं हो रहा है, और अगर पेरेंट का
तो वहां पे 4,500 ले सकते। इन शॉर्ट, प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ चेकअप क्लेम हो रहा है, मैक्सिमम कंबाइंड 5 ले सकते, ठीक है।
एक्चुअली मैम मेरे थोड़ा मुंह में प्रॉब्लम है, इसीलिए मैं क्लियरली बोल नहीं पा रही हूँ, आपको समझ में नहीं आएगा थोड़ा इसलिए।
नहीं नहीं, ट्राई ट्राई, नो प्रॉब्लम।
यानी रवि का 3,000 यहाँ पे होता अवेलेबल, और
हाँ
लेकिन कंसीडर नहीं होता, जैसे कि अभी नहीं हो रहा है क्योंकि
हाँ
25,000 हो गया है।
हाँ।
और पेरेंट के लिए एक्सपेंडिचर होता,
हम्म
मानो 2,000 ऐसा कुछ होता, तो
हम्म।
वो 3,000 को कंबाइन करता है या फिर सिर्फ वो 2,000 नहीं कंसीडर करते?
सी, पहले तो सबकी किटी में ना एक्चुअल एक्सपेंडिचर्स ही लिखे जाएंगे जो हुए हैं, ठीक
यस।
है। देन लिमिट अप्लाई जाएगी, मैं एक्स्ट्रा एक्सपेंडिचर नहीं ले सकती, ठीक है। अगर हुआ ही 2,000 है तो मैं 2,000 ही लूंगी,
यस मैम। यस।
ठीक है। अब जैसे इस केस में आई एम गिविंग एग्जांपल, मैंने कुछ फिगर चेंज नहीं किए, मैंने खाली 4,600 हटा दिया सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का, ठीक है।
हम्म।
अब 3,000 in cash is for preventive health checkup of himself and 4,500 by preventive health checkup for his father. तो 3,000 मैंने यहाँ पे क्लेम कर लिया, राइट, ऑलरेडी
यस
इन
मैम।
दिस 25,000 का लिमिट, ठीक है।
हम्म।
तो 25,000 का लिमिट भी पूरा होगा और यहाँ पे 5,000 में से 3,000 का लिमिट इज पूरा। तो यहाँ पे मैक्सिमम आई कैन क्लेम इज, चाहे 4,500 है एक्चुअल
हम्म।
एक्सपेंडिचर, बट मैक्सिमम आई कैन क्लेम ओनली इज 2,000। वाई? बिकॉज प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ चेकअप की खुद की लिमिट 5,000 है, बोथ कंबाइंड।
यस
So
मैम।
वो 2,000 ले लिया, तो द टोटल डिडक्शन अलाउड अंडर 80D फॉर फादर्स कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन एंड खर्चा इज नाउ 49,000, 47,000 फॉर प्रीमियम एंड 2,000 फॉर प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ चेकअप।
यस मैम।
गॉट
क्लियर।
इट?
यस मैम।
मैम वो पूछना चाह रही है कि क्या रवि के 3,000 हम वहां पे फादर में इंक्लूड कर सकते हैं,
नहीं
मतलब
कर सकते,
रवि के
नहीं कर सकते, वो दोनों का अलग अलग चलेगा पहले, तभी दोनों का एक्चुअल कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन अलग अलग लिखा है। See, तभी फर्स्ट अप्रोच इज ऑलवेज राइट एक्चुअल खर्चा, एलिजिबल एक्चुअल खर्चा दोनों का अलग अलग, देन चेक द लिमिट्स,
क्लियर
ठीक है,
मैम।
उससे इजी होगा।
थैंक यू मैम।
क्लियर?
यस मैम, क्लियर।
एवरीवन, जिनी, मिताली,
यस मैम।
क्लियर।
अंकिता, मानशा, परफेक्ट। और अगर मेरा पॉलिसी ऐसा है कि है वन टाइम प्रीमियम का, बट 10 years इट विल गो, सो दैट वन टाइम प्रीमियम विच आई हैव पेड टुडे विल बी क्लेम्ड इन 10 years proportionately। होता है कभी कभार सिंगल प्रीमियम पॉलिसीज होती है, समटाइम्स यू डू नॉट हैव टू पे प्रीमियम एवरी ईयर, समटाइम्स देयर आर सिंगल प्रीमियम पॉलिसीज ऑल्सो। So suppose that premium which I paid today is valid for 10 years and the premium which I paid today is say 5 lakh rupees. So every year I can claim 50,000 rupees as the premium for the respective year. Got it? So this is all about your 80B. Now let's move forward to your next section, which is 80U. You are making me 80U bola maine, I know. You are making me a promise that you will do each illustration and you will write all these points which we have discussed. Okay. So now, before going to 80DD, I'm taking up 80U. And you'll be like, why 80U we are taking? Just give me 2 minutes, you will understand. So 80U is a section for someone who's an SSE, but who is handicapped or disabled. Sorry, I know many times when I use the word disabled, students come up and say, ma'am, uh, that don't use the word disabled, use the word specially able. With full respect to everyone, the act use this language, that's why I'm using it. Okay? So, yeah, Jenny, no problem. So now coming to 80U. So if the assessee himself is handicapped or disabled, he or she, irrespective of any income or anything they have, are given a flat deduction of 75,000. That means their 75,000 income is allowed as deductible under 80U. Similarly, if the person who is the assessee who is disabled but has 80% or more of the body is disabled with multiple disabilities or severely disabled, the word we use, then he is given a flat deduction of 1,25,000. There is nothing stopping them to claim this particular deduction from the gross total income. If they have a gross total income of 75,000 or more or eligible income of 75,000 or more, they can claim this particular deduction. Simple. Now, this is for 80U. Simple, khatam ho gaya. But why I did this here is because next section, which is going in the line of 80D, which is 80DD, which talks about deduction in respect of maintenance, including medical treatment of dependent disabled. याद करने का तरीका DD का हमेशा से dependent disabled, DD dependent disabled. But this deduction is not for the dependent disabled. This deduction is for someone who is maintaining the dependent disabled. That means if SSC is there, SSC is not dependent disabled. SSC is taking care of someone who is dependent disabled. SSC is taking care of someone who is dependent disabled, because if SSC is disabled, then 80U applies. But if SSC is taking care of someone who is dependent disabled, then 80DD applies. Now, this is the first section where the residency also has come into picture. This particular section allows only resident individual and HUF to claim deduction. Not everyone can claim it, only resident individual and HUF who are maintaining. Now, when we talk about maintaining means they are taking care of that particular disabled either through treatment or through maintenance, by putting upon nurse, by taking them to rehabilitation center, anything, but they are maintaining it. Even if they are paying the insurance for their insurance premium for them, that is also considered insurance premium for the life insurance premium for them, that is also considered as maintaining the dependent disabled. Now the question is, who can be that dependent disabled? That dependent disabled can be any relative. The question again comes to, ma'am, what is the relative? Because each section has a different relative definition, definitely. So relative can be spouse. Now here brother, sister have also come. See, 80C only had spouse and children. 80D had spouse, dependent children and parents. Now 80DD has spouse, brother, sister, children and parents, mother, father. But the condition is they should be fully or mainly dependent upon the assessee. Okay? They should be wholly and totally dependent upon the SSE. So now the SSE, when he is doing the kharcha for the maintaining of such relative, he or she is given a flat deduction irrespective of the expenditure. Even if he's spending 1,000 rupees only on the maintenance, or say 10,000 only, whatever, the flat deduction which is given to him is 75,000, irrespective of kharcha. No, you do not have to compare whichever is lower, whichever is higher. You just have to give a flat deduction of 75,000. But if the person who is being maintained is severely disabled, then it is 1,25,000. 75,000 or 1,25,000. क्लियर? श्योर? बट यहाँ पे एक कंडीशन है that if the assessee is claiming 75 125, then these dependent people should not claim ATU in their return, because assessee is maintaining them, and for maintaining them he's getting 75 125, but then they would be claiming again 75 lakh 125,000 in ATU. That would be wrong. So that's why I told you ATU first. So if they are claiming ATU, then 75,000 or 125,000 would not be allowed. If he is claiming 75,000 125,000 for maintaining them, then they cannot claim ATU. One section only, either the disabled person will claim or the person maintaining them will claim. Got it? Sure. Next thing which यहाँ पे came from assessment year 23-24, which got many people surprised. अब क्या होता है, इसको डीम्ड इनकम का कॉन्सेप्ट क्लियरली समझते हैं. So मैम हमें डॉक्यूमेंटेशन क्या मेंटेन करने से, डॉक्यूमेंटेशन यू शुड हैव अ मेडिकल सर्टिफिकेट of the disability, and then there is one form which you have to file, I think from in IA, to tell that you are maintaining a disabled person. Otherwise कभी टूट नहीं हुआ तो they will ask for the documents. हाँ, so assessment year 23-24 से क्या हुआ? So I told you कि an individual who is maintaining that dependent disabled can make every year a payment for the annuity or the lump sum payment for the disabled person. For the disabled person. कि ठीक है कल को मुझको कुछ हो जाए तो आई एम यूजिंग दिस एन्युटी अमाउंट विच ही विल गेट अ बेनिफिट ऑफ. एसएससी किसके लिए वो एवरी मंथ कंट्रीब्यूशन कर रहे हैं या एवरी ईयर कंट्रीब्यूशन कर रहे हैं, इज फॉर द एन्युटी जो किसको मिलेगा, टू हुम इट विल बी गिवन, डिसेबल को. कब मिल सकता है? ऑन डेथ ऑफ द एसएससी. ठीक है, सपोज करो एसएससी जो उनका करता धरता था, हु वाज टेकिंग केयर ऑफ हिम और हर, डाइज, तो एटलीस्ट डिसेबल के, बिकॉज दे आर डिपेंडेंट ऑन दिस एसी, राइट, एटलीस्ट डिसेबल के लिए सम अमाउंट इज कमिंग, राइट. और SSC did not die, but SSC has attained the age of 60 years. SSC और डिसेबल को अलग अलग रखो. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट SSC who is making such contributions of for the benefit of disabled who will get annuity or lump sum. ठीक है. अब अगेन वो क्यों करेगा, या तो SSC का डेथ हो जाए या SSC has attained 60 years of age, 60 years of age, and now the premium has stopped, the contributions has stopped. ठीक है, दो, क्योंकि अब एसएससी भी 60 इयर्स का हो गया, देन हाउ लॉन्ग ही विल पिक द कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशंस, टू थिंग्स कैन हैपन. सो इफ ऐसा कुछ पॉलिसी चल रहा है विच इज फॉर द बेनिफिट ऑफ डिसेबल, दैट इन द इवेंट ऑफ डेथ ऑफ द एसएससी और ऑन द इवेंट ऑफ एसएससी अटेनिंग 60 years of age, the policy will stop and the disabled will get either the annuity or lump sum. अब इस केस में क्या होगा, यू हैव टू सी कि जो मनी मिला, the money which is received, the money which is received by the dependent, उसका क्या taxability होगा. The money which is received by the dependent disabled on any of these two events is अगर डेथ ऑफ दिस एसी पे मिला exempt, एंड अगर एसएससी के 60 years of age पे भी मिल गया तब भी exempt, but provided the contribution should have been stopped, provided the contribution has stopped. ठीक है, this is exempt in both the situations. बट एक क्रिटिकल सिनेरियो विच आई थिंक सबके माइंड में आ रहा होगा, मैम व्हाट इफ एसएससी की डेथ से पहले डिपेंडेंट डिसेबल का डेथ हो गया, डिपेंडेंट डिसेबल प्री डिसीजेस एसएससी डेथ, सो नाउ अब पैसा किसको मिलेगा, एसएससी को, राइट. अब यहाँ पे ऑन डेथ ऑफ डिपेंडेंट, दिस कैन बी अ केस, who will get the money, SSC. Now this money which the SSC is getting, because he was the one who was making the contribution as a caretaker, the money which the SSC would be getting would be taxable in hand as deemed income. So ये सब लॉ की लैंग्वेज में टेक्निकली ऊपर लिखा हुआ है, बट ये है ये फ्लो चार्ट जो विच हेल्प यू अंडरस्टैंड दिस. क्लियर? You can take a note of it because you are at a level where questions like these will come. Not what about flat 75 or 125.
मैम डिपेंडेंट की डेथ पे हमें इनकम कैलकुलेट करनी पड़ेगी ना फर्स्ट, देन टैक्सेबल होगा ना उस पर जो
इनकम क्या?
कंट्रीब्यूशन हमें रिसीव होगा।
हाँ, तो वो जो लमसम आपको रिसीव होगा वो टैक्सेबल हो जाएगा ना।
मैम उसमें से जो हमने कंट्रीब्यूट
नहीं,
किया
वो
होगा
प्रीमियम्स वाला पार्ट नहीं, पूरा का पूरा टैक्सेबल हो जाएगा।
फुल्ली टैक्सेबल।
यस, फुल्ली का फुल्ली टैक्सेबल हो जाएगा। इनकम वाला पार्ट है यू टॉकिंग अबाउट, वो जो 10 10 डी में लगता है ना, वो नहीं। सच अमाउंट लिखा हुआ है, सो द अमाउंट वुड बी टैक्सेबल। गुड क्वेश्चन। एवरीवन सॉर्टेड, क्लियर? अंकिता, विघ्नेश, last section before we take the break is about ATDDB, मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट। तो सबसे पहले ये मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट का क्या सेक्शन है, एंड ये मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट वर्ड अभी हमने ATD में भी सॉ, राइट? तो व्हाट इज दिस ऑल अबाउट मैम? सो लेट्स टॉक अबाउट ATDDB। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यहाँ पे नोटिफाइड मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट्स है फॉर विच DCC कैन क्लेम द खर्चा। खर्चा वील टॉक अबाउट क्या ट्रीटमेंट्स क्या क्या हो सकती हैं। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल ट्रीटमेंट्स आर लाइक डिमेंशिया, देन एनी ऑफ योर मोटर न्यूरॉन डिजीजेस, malignant diseases, AIDS, chronic renal failure, thalassemia, all of these are covered. ये आपके notified diseases and ailments हैं जिसका medical treatment is allowed. जिसका medical treatment is allowed. Now, first of all, किसको this particular deduction is allowed? This particular deduction again is only allowed to resident individual NHF. So ATDD talks about resident individual NHF and ATDDB also talks about resident individual NHF. किसका मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट? मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट या तो खुद का या डिपेंडेंट पर्सन का, either of themselves or dependent relative. So DD has dependent disabled relatives and DDB also have dependent relatives. Now यहाँ पे disability word नहीं है because यहाँ पे ailment का खर्च यूज है, ठीक है। अब डिपेंडेंट रिलेटिव्स कौन है? सेम, डिपेंडेंट स्पाउस, डिपेंडेंट चिल्ड्रन, डिपेंडेंट ब्रदर सिस्टर। अगर डिपेंडेंट वर्ड नहीं है ATDDB वुड नॉट बी अलाउड, एंड डिपेंडेंट पेरेंट्स, ठीक है। HUF में एनी डिपेंडेंट पर्सन, ठीक है। किस चीज का खर्चा मिलेगा? ऑफ द expenditure which has been what deduction will be allowed? Of the actual expenditure which is done on the treatment, or maximum 40,000, whichever is lower, okay? But 40,000, this limit of 40,000 would be increased to 1 lakh if the person who is getting treated is a senior citizen. If the person who is getting treated is a senior citizen. If the person who is getting treated as a senior citizen, then this 40,000 gets increased to 1 lakh. So comparison is actual treatment same, but actual treatment of 1 lakh or actual treatment of 40,000 depending upon the person who is getting treated. उसका age. Obviously because अगर senior citizen होगा खर्चा ज्यादा है. ATDD has a flat limit, but ATDDB has a expenditure comparison limit. Number 1. Number 2, this is for medical treatment. That is for disability and maintaining. वहां पे medical treatment होना ना होना is not important. Here you have to have a medical treatment, and when we talk about medical treatment, it can be from a government hospital or it can be from a private hospital, and you have to take a certificate of a declaration that so and so person has been treated for so and so disease, and this is the kharcha which has happened, and you have to maintain it as a record that in future if authorities ask, you have a certificate. अब suppose करो we are talking about डिपेंडेंट मदर, ठीक है, एक्स की डिपेंडेंट मदर है. प्लीज लिसन केयरफुली, दिस क्वेश्चन विल कम इन योर माइंड. Who has been made a treatment, medical treatment has been happened for her, and she is a senior citizen. She does not have any insurance. She does not have any insurance. ठीक है. The kharcha for her medical treatment comes to 4 lakh rupees. So now an SSC can do what? An SSC can do that 1 lakh he or she can claim under 80DDB, very rightly, and remaining 3 lakh to the maximum limit of 50,000 can go under 80D also. So for the medical treatment, both the sections can be utilized, but not the same amount. Breakup of the amounts can be utilized for 80DDB also and 80D. See, 80D में क्यों चला जाएगा? Because she is a senior citizen, not having an insurance, and medical treatment is happening. And यहाँ पे तो anyway specified ailments के लिए 80DDB is there. Got it? Clear? अब also in general किसी का अब यहाँ पे ये criteria नहीं है that you should not have an insurance. Criteria is only for 80D that you should not have an insurance, then medical treatment kharcha is allowed for a specified senior citizen. But suppose if in general case 2 we take where a person is medically treating his mother dependent on him, the kharcha has happened of 4 lakhs, but insurance se recovery ho gaya of 3 lakhs or say 3,50,000. Then what would be the actual expenditure? You will not say the actual expenditure is of 4 lakhs. No, you've already recovered 3,50,000. So for you, the actual expenditure is of 50,000. For you, the actual expenditure is of 50,000. So you'll compare 50,000 or 1 lakh, whichever is. Got it? So please be very careful. Or obviously, since medical treatment हो रहा है, insurance है, तो 80D के लिए does not get qualify for the treatment expenditure. Now this is how you have to relate 80D, 80DD and 80DDB and also 80U. कहीं पे किसी को कोई doubt? Interesting? New points discovered? Guys, yes, no, clear? मेरे को तो ये भी नहीं पता that you are understanding or not. Perfect. So now with this, we'll take a break and we'll start with ATE. Our aim would be here today to cover till ATGGC so that from the next class, we can start directly from the deductions in relations to incomes. Okay, so see you soon after the break. Thank you. So took a quick break. Hope ate something. So now shall we start with the next segment of deductions? किसी को ये डाउट तो नहीं आता ना कि मैम इसमें हमें सेक्शन याद रखने हैं या नहीं? Sure. Guys, everyone please be on your Josh part because now we are starting with your ATE list. Now when I put forward ATE friends, you see ATC talks about um, premiums, insurances when it comes to life or social security. Okay. ETD का list talks about medical related things or disability related things. ATE का list, which we'll start, is about interest. Interest on education, interest on loan of house, interest on loan of car. ये तीन टाइप के लिस्ट है. And then we'll go for ATG का list that talks about your donations. So this is how you can segregate the sections. Now first we start with your ATE. Everyone on the screen, please. Exactly, Jenny. Exactly right. So now, one second. Yeah. So when I talk now about ATE, ATE talks about education loan. Now this is again as I told you, अभी तक सारे sections which we discussed, उसमें से सिर्फ दो subsections हैं which are allowed for 115 BSc SSCs, except otherwise all sections are only allowed if you opt out of 115 BSc. दो sections कौन से? ATCCD subsection 2 and ATCCH subsection 2. Now we talk about ATE. Interest on education loan. Again, the focus should be on the word interest, number one. Secondly, not the principal payment, purely the interest. Education loan is one such common thing which happens when we talk about higher education. तो यहाँ पे higher education का मतलब है any education which you are pursuing after 12th. It can be in India, it can be outside India. जिसके लिए आपने लोन लिया है, that education can be a higher education after 12th outside India or in India, because this is something a true fact. People who go for graduations or in premium colleges or EV colleges or post graduation, they spend a lot of money, and most of that money, most of them is funded by an education loan. ठीक है. एंड जनरली ये एजुकेशन लोन का टर्म ऐसा होता है, मोरेटोरियम होता है. In the first 3 years, maybe just the interest is getting accumulated. The repayment starts after, say, fourth year, fifth year, or after you've completed your education or after you've secured a job. This is how education loan के terms decided होते हैं, right? So we here are talking about an education loan taken for a higher education purpose for Indian outside India. Now the question first will come in your mind is कि किसको मिलेगी deduction? This deduction is only for individual, not for HUF. Second question which comes in your mind कि ma'am higher education तो you cleared कि it is one after 12, but किसका education? Individual who is doing the education. So the loan can be taken for either self or spouse or children or any person for whom the SSC is the legal guardian. ठीक है. तो या तो मैं अपने स्पाउस के लिए एजुकेशन लोन ले सकती हूँ, उसका रीपेमेंट कर रही हूँ, देन आई कैन क्लेम द इंटरेस्ट. आई कैन टेक एजुकेशन लोन फॉर माई चिल्ड्रन, उसका रीपेमेंट कर रही हूँ, आई कैन टेक द इंटरेस्ट का डिडक्शन. इवन वोकेशनल स्टडीज, अगर किसी को कोई आर्टिस्ट कोर्स करना है या कोई फिल्म आर्टिस्ट कोर्स करना है, फिल्म डायरेक्शन कोर्सेज करना है, दैट आर ऑल्सो covered here. Now यहाँ पे outside India covered है. If you talk about ATC tuition fees, जहाँ पे I am claiming tuition fees for maximum up to 2 children, वहाँ पे outside India covered नहीं है. Deduction किसका मिलेगा? Clearly interest का. For how much time? अभी तक कहीं पे भी टाइम नहीं अलाउड था. So this is for maximum 8 assessment years in continuity. So as I told you कि loan जो terms होते हैं, sometimes the loan repayment starts after 3 years or after 4 years. So I can claim the deduction from the year when the interest, the repayment has been happening, interest component का for maximum 8 assessment years. अब लोन 8 assessment years से पहले खत्म हो गया तो obviously till that years. Loan 8 assessment years के beyond गया, then maximum 8 assessment years. So today if I start claiming the deduction for the assessment year 23, or say for the previous year 24-25, then 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31 and 32. 32 previous year तक I can claim the deduction of it, उसके beyond नहीं. Hmm. 31, 32 तक I can claim the deduction. Sorted? Okay. Now the question which will come from your mind next is कि मैम loan कहाँ से लेना है? Can we take the loan from my any person? No. So the loan should be from either bank or any notified financial institutions, जिसके लिए दो notified financial institutions हैं, or any approved charitable trust. I cannot take a loan from a relative and claim 80E. Okay, so only from them the loan has to be taken. So I guess this answers all your question for 80E. Dependency is again not a criteria here. So when please try to maintain a chart जहाँ पे सिर्फ families से related dependent, non-dependent कौन-कौन सी family कौन-कौन से section में है या इसी chart में add कर देना कि relatives of family for the purpose of deduction, so that you have it at a glance कि which family or which relative is covered under which section. So if you talk about stepdaughter, सिर्फ stepdaughter होगा, brother sister तो नहीं है in this particular section मिताली. See, if the person, see, wherever children are there, adopted until unless specified, adopted and step, all children are included. And plus, if you're a legal guardian, then any which way you can claim for it. If I'm a legal guardian for my brother, I can claim the reduction here. किसी स्टूडेंट का मैं लीगल गार्डियन हूँ, आई कैन क्लेम द डिडक्शन. मैम अगर मेरे दो चिल्ड्रन के ऐसा यहाँ पे कोई रिस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं है. अगर अब 3 चिल्ड्रन, तीनों का इंटरेस्ट डिडक्शन चल रहा है, तीनों का इंटरेस्ट डिडक्शन आई कैन क्लेम. तीनों का एजुकेशन लोन इज देयर, तीनों का एजुकेशन लोन आई कैन क्लेम, इसका इंटरेस्ट का डिडक्शन आई कैन क्लेम. देयर इज इवन नो लिमिट आल्सो ऑन इट. Each section has some ceiling limit. This section does not even have a ceiling limit. Now, next two sections, 80EE and 80EEA, are relation to house property. ठीक है, अब इनका लाने का मोटिव क्या था? अगेन was to bring affordable housing and to incentivize people who are first time house owner. ठीक है, so assessment year 16, 17 में या हाँ, so this was introduced in the budget where this particular deduction was allowed. Second. To only individual, first of all, for interest on housing loan. For interest on housing loan. Now you will say 80EE I'm discussing first. You will say कि interest on housing loan, मैम ये तो सुना है, section 24 में भी है. Yes, so this is an additional interest which is given as a deduction for interest on housing loan. Individual can be resident, non-resident, does not matter. the condition here is that you will get the maximum interest deduction of 50,000. Maximum 50,000. And you will get this deduction only if you are purchasing a residential house. You are purchasing a residential house from any bank, financial institution, or housing finance company. Okay? The loan amount is maximum up to 35 lakhs. The loan which I've taken for that residential house is maximum up to 35 lakhs. You do not have any other residential house as on the sanction of the loan. So that means you're the first time loan borrower. Okay, first time loan purchaser, first time house purchaser, I should say. The value of the house is up to 50 lakhs. So यानी ये उनके लिए जो पहली बार एक घर बना रहे हैं और एक मतलब एक डिसेंट सा घर, ये नहीं कि सीधा आप मैंशन खरीद रहे हैं, you can claim deduction under section 80EE. And the loan should be sanctioned between previous year 16-17. Now we'll be like, ma'am, ये तो 7-8 years पुराना deduction है. Why are we doing it right now? Because loan was sanctioned then, and when we talk about housing loans, they go for 20-20 years almost. So this deduction is still relevant, but for who has taken the loan in the financial year 16-17, not for someone who's taking the loan today. Was taking the loan in financial 16-17, and obviously is continuing paying the loan and continuing paying the interest. So that's why this deduction is very much valid. But यहाँ पे, as I told you, the maximum interest a year additionally is allowed is 50,000. अब suppose a person is paying an interest of 3 lakhs. रीपेमेंट अलग होता है, प्रिंसिपल पेमेंट अलग है, इंटरेस्ट इज अलग, ठीक है. सो ही कैन क्लेम 50,000 अंडर 80EE, and under section 24B he can claim remaining 2,50,000 up to the maximum whatever limit is allowed if basis the house is self occupied or is let out, totally their choice. अब टेक्निकली बेटर हमेशा है अंडर सेक्शन 24B पहले क्लेम करना. अब यू विल आस्क मैम व्हाई. अब सपोज समवन इज पेइंग जस्ट इंटरेस्ट ऑफ 70,000 as interest on loan during the year, you will say कि मैम पहले 50 कर लेते. नहीं, I will suggest कि पहले 24B करो. Why? There is a reason, because A, it will set off my income. B, if the interest is not as much equal to, it will set off my other income. हाउस प्रॉपर्टी में लॉस आया तो मेरी बाकी इनकम कम हो जाएंगे. B, if the interest is very much and the house property loss is very much, at least it can be carry forwarded to the next years. Correct? It can be carry forwarded to the next year. Because अगर मैं deduction में लूंगी, income होगी, अगर होगी, then only deduction would be allowed. And if there would be no income, that deduction would be lapsed. But if I claim interest on housing loan, I will get loss from house property if the case is, and it would be carry forwarded and it can be settled in the future. So it is totally a math which you want to apply. You can claim 50 here. There is no one saying you have to claim 24B pehle. No, it is the maths calculation prudence which says that 24B claiming is better than claiming 80EE. No book is teaching you this. This is something, again, a thought of prudence which should come in your mind. Got it? Secondly, यहाँ पे एक word पे बार बार focus करना is sanction. Sanction. Why I'm saying it again and again? Because when we go and apply for loan, there are different stages. There is a stage when you are applying for loan. Then there is a stage where they will be checking your documents. Then there will be a stage where the loan is sanctioned. That means after all the verification, thappa, the loan is granted to you. And then thereafter, say after once it is sanctioned, after 10 days, it may disburse. Disburse matlab sanction आज हुआ, money can come in my bank account in 10 days or at the time of registry, whatever the case is. Okay, so please use on the word sanction that when the loan is actually approved, and it should be approved in the year 16-17 for you to claim 80EE. And maximum deduction is 50,000 here. Clear? Now after this 80EE, since it was a very short-lived time limit, सिर्फ एक साल का time गया to purchase the house, 80EE came with a better feature, with a better interest, and with a better clarity. I'll tell you how. So 80EE now is a deduction in respect of interest payable on the loan taken for the acquisition of residential house property. So 80EE is also for residential house property and 80EA is also for residential house property. But यहाँ पे conditions क्या क्या है? यहाँ पे first condition came in. The first benefit shall I talk about? The maximum interest here per year is 1,50,000 per annum. So either the interest amount or 1,50,000 per annum you're getting. 80EE you're only getting 50,000. Again, this is only can be is for individual only, resident, non-resident does not matter. Other condition is that the stamp duty value should be of the residential house should be for 45 lakhs. वहां पे they just use the term value and that too value up to 50 lakhs. यहाँ पे they have restricted the term to stamp duty value. यहाँ पे लोन का कुछ पंगा नहीं डाला कि लोन इतने अमाउंट का होना चाहिए because someone if they want to fund 100% of the loan they want generally companies bank नहीं करते but still यहाँ पे टाइम पीरियड ज्यादा दिया फॉर 80EE बेनिफिट्स टू क्लेम वहां पे जस्ट 1 year was given to take the loan and choose the house. Here the time limit for 80EE claims is if your loan is sanctioned by the financial institutions or bank or housing finance company between 1st April 19 to 31st March 20. So technically someone can start claiming this particular deductions from assessment year 2021, correct? Because 19 में loan sanction होगा तो assessment year 2021 से you can start claiming this particular deduction. Today I go and buy a house property and I'm paying interest on it. 80EE is also not there. 80EA is also not there. These are for those loans which were taken for the residential house property in these respective years. Number one. Number two, यहाँ पे भी no other house का condition है, but यहाँ पे loan का condition they did not put unnecessarily. Or interest, if you have claimed under this section, you cannot claim it under any other section. The same amount. So 80EE and 80EA cannot be in the same return. But yes, 80EE and 24B can be in the same return. 80EA and 24B can be the same return. And the same logic applies here also. That I would be more keen in claiming 24B if possible. See, if I do not have sufficient income, then claiming 24B is better. Why? Because it can be carry forwarded. But if I have sufficient income, then I can claim 1,50,000 under my deductions. Considering everything, you should not be having special income. Matlab basically, your deduction should be fully utilized against the gross total income. Then only I will claim 80EE. Otherwise, I will always claim interest on loan under section 24B. Got it? दोनों में क्लियर क्वेश्चन कैसे आएगा आइडेंटिफाई कैसे करोगे जहां पे हाउस प्रॉपर्टी का क्वेश्चन है एंड लोन सैंक्शनिंग की डेट्स दी हुई है. हाउस नेम में है नो प्रॉब्लम देयर शुड बी नो हाउस इन योर नेम. ये हो सकता है if I have a self-occupied house, so I will or I am paying 3 lakh का interest, so I will claim 2 lakh there, 1 lakh here. It's totally upon you that maximum see better results कहाँ पे आएंगे, better benefit SSC को कहाँ पे मिलेंगे. That is how you have to apply. Answer would not be wrong, but your knowledge as a CA would be undermined कि you are not giving a better tax benefit. So next in the interest segment is, see, one we covered interest on education loan, second we covered interest on housing loan. One is for 80EE for 16-17 year wale loan sanction. Next is for 80EA for 19-22 wale year loan sanction. Okay. Next we come up to 80EB. Now this again came up in a time, इसका latest year, हाँ, इसका latest year last year ही बढ़ाया था. This came up in a time with incentives to promote green vehicles to reduce pollution. See, as I told you, all type of benefits which are given has an underlying motive of the government. बिगिनिंग ऑफ द क्लास में बताया था, ठीक है. ये मोटिव क्या था कि ग्रीन व्हीकल्स बढ़े, इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स बढ़े. सो दिस पर्टिकुलर इंटरेस्ट डिडक्शन इज व्हेन यू आर टेकिंग loan on purchase of an electric vehicle, loan on purchase of an electric vehicle. And trust me, time these sunset periods क्या होते हैं कि मैक्सिमम कब तक आप ये बेनिफिट एंजॉय करने के लिए कंडीशंस को क्लेम करना. सो आई हैव सीन a lot of sale increasing in the last quarter of March, in the last quarter of your calendar, sorry, in the first quarter of calendar year 23. Why? Because iska sunset period aa raha tha. So what are the conditions? Let's discuss. Now this is deduction in respect of interest on electric vehicle. Yahan pe maximum deduction allowed would be, why is it not moving? Maximum interest would be 1,50,000 per annum, obviously, for a loan taken for the purchase of electric vehicle from bank, financial institutions or NBFCs. ठीक है. It's written only. SSC should be individual. The vehicle can be taken one day up minus, but the loan should be sanctioned between April 19 to March 23. Earlier this was March 22, but it was increased to March 23. And simple, but you should, no other way you should claim the interest. This is what your ATEEB says. But interestingly, question कैसे आ सकता है? सपोज इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल इज अ बिजनेस व्हीकल, ठीक है, वो बिजनेस पर्पस में यूज होगा, इट्स अ बिजनेस एसेट. अब उस पर लोन लिया है तो आई कैन क्लेम द इंटरेस्ट अंडर सेक्शन 36 सबसेक्शन 1 क्लॉज 3, राइट. अब दोनों सेक्शन में आई कैन नॉट क्लेम, आई विल बी क्लेमिंग वहां पे भी एंड यहाँ पे भी, दोनों मतलब सेम अमाउंट. यस, बट हैविंग प्लान, सपोज आई एम पेइंग एन इंटरेस्ट ऑफ 4 lakhs, then I can claim 1,50,000 in your section 80 EEB and remaining 2,50,000 in my section 36 subsection 1 clause 3. 4 lakh दोनों तरफ नहीं हो सकता. ऐसा नहीं है कि 150 I will claim here and 4 lakh I will claim there. That would be wrong. ठीक है. So remember, one interest, one expenditure, one time. This is income cannot be taxed twice in the same year. Similarly, kharcha cannot be taken benefit twice, either in the deductions head or under the deduction under the respective computation or under the gross total income. ठीक है. But again, the same logic apply that if given a thought, if I do not have a lot of income, I will claim every deduction of interest under section 36 subsection 1 clause 3. Why? Because इससे loss आएगा, loss can be carry forwarded, deductions can never be carry forwarded if there is no sufficient income. So same thought goes here also. Clear? You can relate now. Now we come on to the next question. You can please practice this aram se. This is very simple. You have to see the condition and you have to see the interest, and whatever is during the year, based on that, you can claim the reduction. None of it is allowed to anyone who is claiming 115 BAC. Now we move on to the next list of donations. Before donations, ATG, ATGG, we will go on to 1 second. क्योंकि डोनेशन का लिस्ट एक साथ है, so I will directly first go to ATGG. So ATG की list now we are starting, जिसमें ATG is for donation, ATGGA is again for contribution, ATGGB is again for contribution, ATGGC is also again for contributions. ठीक है. So इसमें बीच में एक अलग से सेक्शन आ गया ATGG, डिडक्शन इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ रेंट पेड. तो रेंट पेड किसके लिए पर्टिकुलर सेक्शन है? The assessee के लिए who is paying rent during the year, who is staying on rent during the year. Now rent जैसे ही हम बोलते हैं, the first thing which comes into our mind is housing rent allowance, which is HRA exemption, housing rent allowance exemption, right? So this is pretty much clear that if you are someone who is claiming HRA exemption, then ATGG is not for you. एक ही रिटर्न में दोनों नहीं होंगे. एक ही रिटर्न में you cannot claim both of them. Number one. Or I can be an employee, but HR exemption is not allowed to me. Then I can claim ATGG. Single return में both cannot be there. Both cannot be there. Along with that, assessee, spouse, or any of his child should not, minor child, should not own any house in that place जहाँ के accommodation के लिए you are paying the rent. Suppose I'm showing that I'm paying the rent, but I have my same house in the same city, in the same locality. वो नहीं चलेगा. I can have house in Delhi, but due to my work, I'm living in Gurgaon and staying in Gurgaon. I don't want to travel every day 40 kilometers. So yes, वहाँ पे if I'm doing that and I'm paying rent, even if I have an house, I can claim ATGG. But suppose I have a house in Gurgaon and within 5-10 kilometers range and I'm again claiming ATGG, that is not allowed. House can be in my name, my spouse name, or my minor child name. And now the question comes that what is the deduction allowed, ma'am? Individual को ही मिलेगा सबसे पहले. The deduction allowed is based on the three criteria. I hope you can see on the screen. That is actual rent paid minus 10% of the total income of the assessee before allowing the deduction. इसको हम ऐसे लिखते हो रेंट, जैसे उस पे था रेंट माइनस 10% ऑफ सैलरी. एचआर एग्जेम्पशन के लिए यहाँ पे रेंट परसेंट ऑफ द एडजस्टेड टोटल इनकम है. Adjusted gross total income. I'll tell you how. Or 25% of adjusted gross total income, or 5,000 per month, which is maximum 60,000. So in any which way, maximum reduction which you can have in this particular section is 60,000. Even if you have a higher rent, then 60,000 ही आएगा. अभी adjusted gross total income क्या है? ये है मेरा gross total income minus all deductions. Minus all deductions, that would be my adjusted gross total income. Here's a question. So a big question है Mr. Rakesh का. Let's see that. Mr. Rakesh is a businessman whose total income before allowing deduction under 80GG. Minus all deduction, obviously minus excluding 80GG. For the assessment year 25-26 is 4,60,000. House rent paid is 12,000 per month. In respect of a residential residential accommodation occupied by him at Mumbai. Computer deduction allowable to him under section so and so if he has exercised the option of opting out of the default tax regime. Now let's start. Simple sum. Actual rent कितना है? We have been given actual rent is 12,000 per month, making it 1,44,000 per annum minus 10% of gross total income, which is already given to you in the question. 98,000. 25% of gross total income adjusted comes to 1,15,000 and 5,000 per month comes to 60,000. So maximum deduction here allowed would be 60,000. Simple. किसी को 80GG में doubt? Please always make sure, and specifically as a CA, if your client who is not an employee but living on rent, make sure he claims 80GG in his return of income. So now let's proceed to a very interesting, very important, very common section, ATG. अभी तक जितने sections we did, no one had any SSE in his name. Only individual HUF. This particular first section is coming up now, which is available to all SSEs. Ginny, the limit is rent minus 10% of adjusted gross total income, 25% of the gross total income, or 5,000 per month. तीनों में से lowest. तीनों में से lowest. Now let's talk about deduction in respect of donation. First of all, this particular section is for every SSC. Every SSC, by every SSC, I mean anyone, resident, non-resident, company, HUF, firm, AOP, anyone can claim this deduction for donation. Donation to any fund, institutions, associations which are specified. Which are specified, we'll come to the list. And the deduction would be is available even if the donation is made out of exempt income. You can write this question can come at your level. See, income से exempt income से अगर मैं donation कर रही हूँ, there is no problem in that. There is a clear ruling also on this. Now, friends, donation यहाँ पे what else you have to remember is that there is no maximum limit as such for the donation, but there is 4 different types of category. But before that, remember that here donation is allowed as donation when made in any mode other than cash. Cash donation is allowed only up to 2K. Reason is simple कि black money contribution करके you cannot claim the donation. Cash donation only up to 2K. In kind donation भी नहीं allowed है. Suppose I've given food, clothes वगैरह, that is not covered here. You have to do it through a monetary sum. ठीक है? Then यहाँ पे there are 4 categories, but going before the 4 categories, you have to see that again, this particular section is not available to anyone opting concessional tax regime except a company who is under section 115 BA. BA, not BAA. Company is covered under 115 BAA, cannot claim it. Company covered under 115 BAB cannot claim it. Individual HUF covered or AOP covered or AGB covered under 115 BAC cannot claim it. Cooperative societies covered under 115 BAD or BAE cannot claim it. Okay? Then you cannot claim double donation, double deduction. कि आपने donation या तो you're making into any fund जहाँ पे आप your section 35 का भी deductions you're claiming or section 37 का deductions also you're claiming and you're claiming it here, not allowed. But what are the maximum donation allowed? First, ma'am, please help us understand that. Okay, so first let's understand what are the maximum donations allowed. Before we go on to the list. There are 4 categories in which you have to put in your contributors, मतलब donee के ऊपर. So one category is 100% of the donation would be allowed as deduction. Another is 50% of the donation would be allowed as a deduction. So suppose I'm giving a contribution of 1 lakh, only 50,000 would be allowed. So basically these are subject to no limit. No condition, I can say, better to say. Then condition based है. Condition based means again there is 2 category की condition के बाद 100% of that would be allowed or 50% of that would be allowed. Okay? 100% or 50%. Now, how this happens? Let's understand. Condition क्या? Condition is that subject to, first of all, you have to calculate your adjusted gross total income. अब adjusted gross total income निकालनी, उसके 100% whatever donation is there, वो adjusted gross total income के 100% तक आ रही है, or I should say whatever the donation is there, उसका 100% actual contribution जितना भी adjusted gross total income से you can take, very good. So maximum donation in the 3rd and 4th category combined, this is the 3rd category and 4th category combined should be equal to adjusted gross total income. अब आप कैसे करोगे? सिंपल सा है. First of all, you will calculate your adjusted gross total income. Now, how will I calculate my adjusted gross total income? बहुत कम कर दिया gross total. Suppose whatever my gross total income, suppose my gross total income is 18 lakhs. उसमें से I will reduce all the deductions under chapter 6A. Suppose I've taken 1,50,000 in my ATC, 50,000 in my ATCCD subsection 1B, 50,000 in ATD. Then I've claimed suppose 50,000 again as इंटरेस्ट ऑन एजुकेशन लोन, जो भी जितनी भी डिडक्शंस है, ऑल फ्रॉम 80C to 80U, एवरीथिंग हैज टू बी रिमूव्ड. ठीक है. उसके बाद एनी स्पेशल इनकम विच इज देयर अंडर लॉन्ग ऑफ द कैपिटल गेन कैटेगरी has to be removed. 111A, 112, 112A. So suppose I had a long term capital gain of 2 lakh here. सब कुछ हटा दिया. ठीक है. So now, or any other special income category which is referred here in 115BA, AB, sorry, AB, AC, AD, सारी वाली वो भी हटा दी. ठीक है. अब उसके बाद suppose what is my gross total income now? This is called adjusted gross total income. 18 minus 2 minus 1 minus 2, 5 lakhs. हाँ. So 13 lakhs. Now 10% of the adjusted gross income, that is 1,30,000, becomes my kitty for the third and fourth category. ठीक है. Then I will calculate the actual donation which is subject to the qualifying limit, यानी 100%. अब suppose third category में I have made 1 lakh का deduction and donation. Fourth category में I have made 60,000 का donation. So 100% of the third category यानी 1 lakh subject to the qualifying limit, and 50% of the fourth category, that is 30,000, subject to the, अभी 30 आ गया, सॉरी, इसको हम 8 लाख कर देते, 80,000 कर देते हैं, that is 40,000 subject to the qualifying limit. अब 1,30,000 में से सबसे पहले आई विल यूटिलाइज दिस 1,30,000 में से सबसे पहले आई विल यूटिलाइज दिस 1 लाख, एंड देन 30,000 और 40,000 में से विच एवर इज लो, विच इज 30,000, दैट वुड बी यूटिलाइज. ठीक है, समझ आया? सो एडजस्टेड ग्रॉस टोटल इनकम से ज्यादा मेरी थर्ड एंड फोर्थ कैटेगरी की कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन नहीं हो सकती. पहले आई विल एडजस्ट माई 100% ऑफ द क्वालिफाइंग लिमिट वाला, एंड देन आई विल एडजस्ट माई 50% वाला. बट द क्वेश्चन इज कि मैम ये फर्स्ट, सेकंड, थर्ड, फोर्थ कैटेगरी में डोनीज कौन कौन से? हु आर ऑल दीज डोनीज एंड डू वी हैव टू रिमेंबर इट? Technically, you have to read them once, twice, and thrice, and you will remember it because you yourself will have an identification. कौन कौन से हैं? I'll quickly read through the list. Why? I'll tell you. See, National Defense Fund, Prime Minister National Relief Fund, Prime Minister Armenia Earthquake Relief Fund, Africa Fund, National Children's Fund, National Foundation for Communal Harmony, Chief Minister Fund, all these national items which are there, State Government Fund of Gujarat, Zilla Samikshi Fund, National Blood Transfusional Council Fund, State Government Fund for Medical Relief, Army Central Fund, Indian Naval Fund, आंध्र प्रदेश चीफ मिनिस्टर फंड 15 नंबर पे, नेशनल इलनेस फंड, चीफ मिनिस्टर रिलीफ फंड. 17 को इटैलिक्स क्यों किया? बिकॉज दिस इज अ चेंज विच हैज कम दिस ईयर. नेशनल स्पोर्ट्स डेवलपमेंट फंड था पहले, ये नेशनल स्पोर्ट्स फंड था, इसको डेवलपमेंट वर्ड ऐड कर दिया. सो देयर इज दिस small change which has come this year. Then there is Natural Cultural Fund. Then there is Fund for Technology Development and Application. मतलब सारा अगर आप देखो, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, नेशनल, except Gujarat, and one more was there, Zilla Samikshi. Everything is national. Swachh Bharat Kosh, Clean Ganga Fund, National Fund for drug abuse, and Prime Minister Cares Fund, सबका favorite, is covered here. एंड 50% कैटेगरी में सिर्फ एक है प्राइम मिनिस्टर का, विच इज ड्रॉट रिलीफ फंड, और कोई नहीं है. सो दिस मेक्स इट क्लियर कि कोई भी टर्म आया जिसमें प्राइम मिनिस्टर, नेशनल या इकोनॉमी के रिलीफ के ऊपर है, या ऐसे इकोनॉमी के नेशनल यूज के ऊपर है, देन इट इज फर्स्ट कैटेगरी. बस एक प्राइम मिनिस्टर ड्रॉट रिलीफ फंड होगा विच इज ऑफ द सेकेंड कैटेगरी. Right? This is your identification mark. Read that category once or twice, more than enough. This is your identification mark. ठीक है. थर्ड कैटेगरी में कौन आएगा? ओनली गवर्नमेंट या लोकल अथॉरिटी अप्रूव्ड इंस्टीट्यूशन विच आर प्रमोटिंग फैमिली प्लानिंग, और एक कंपनी को ही मिलती है खाली ओलंपिक की डोनेशन, इंडियन ओलंपिक एसोसिएशन में, इफ दे आर मेकिंग द डोनेशन. ये थर्ड कैटेगरी हो गई. सो फर्स्ट कैटेगरी की निशानी इज प्राइम मिनिस्टर, नेशनल, स्टेट रिलीफ, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा. Second is Prime Minister Drought Relief Fund, which you have to remember that this is no matter what part of your second category. ठीक है. थर्ड में फैमिली प्लानिंग एंड ओलंपिक, एंड fourth is a general category जहाँ पे all of our government charitable trust institutions which are basically for public welfare are coming. और ये ATG 5 में कोई भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हो सकती है which can get a status under ATG 5 that. अब इसको कैसे आइडेंटिफाई करेंगे? whenever you are making a donation you will ask for the receipt. On the receipt it would be given that this particular donation we particular organization is covered as the one under ATG subsection 5. It would be written. So all these shrine boards or all these mandirs which give you the donation receipt like Vaishno Devi Mandir and all of them, they are covered under ATG 5. Give India Foundations, all of these Keto, etc., they are also covered under the fourth category. Because unka agar aap donation receipts, if you'll see somewhere, it would be written that this particular donation receipt has a tax benefit. And ये खुद से नहीं है, they take the first approval of the commissioner board, etc., and then they get it, and then they get that status. Got it? अब हो सकता है that when you're making the donation, they have that status of an eligible donor for fourth category. But after you have made the donation, their status of eligible donor is taken away from them. But it is then not your problem. When at the time of donation, you were making it as a genuine donation, knowing that they are covered, fine. Even after making your donation and before filing the return, their status is taken away from them, no problem. You'll still be eligible to claim the deduction. You'll still be eligible to claim the deduction. Sorted? Clear? अब जितने भी मैम हम ट्रस्ट चेक कैसे करेंगे? यूटिलिटीज है साइट पे टू चेक वेदर दिस पर्टिकुलर डोनी इज कवर्ड under the eligible donation person for claiming the benefit of ATG or not. You can check that. Now, ma'am, let's do one question so that it becomes more clear. Definitely. So next question we'll pick up. Of Arjun, and our question would be absolutely clear. But before that, some point which you have to remember is in this respect, पहले होता था जवाहरलाल नेहरू फंड होता था, इंदिरा गांधी मेमोरियल ट्रस्ट फंड होता था कैटेगरी 2 में. Rajiv Gandhi Fund, if you have studied in inter level, all of them have been removed from your Finance Act 2023. Then National Sports Fund, as I told you, has been changed to National Sports Development Fund. अच्छा, donation to Swachh Bharat Kosh or other Ganga Fund, Clean Ganga Fund, is eligible for deduction only if the SSC is not making that donation as a CSR initiative. Suppose SSC CSR भी claim कर रहे हैं in Companies Act and he is claiming it here also, that is wrong. ये वाला point कब काम आएगा? For your paper which is your open book exam. ठीक है? So please make sure that you note all these small requirements. अब quickly question करते हैं of a guy Arjun. Arjun has a gross total income of 8,85,000. Sorry. 8,85,000 comprising of the income of salary and house property. Fair enough. He paid a premium paid to the insurance of the life of a major daughter. Policy taken on 1st April 18. Assured value of 1,80,000. Premium is 20,000. ठीक है? Medical insurance premium for self 14,000. Spouse 15,000. Fair enough. Donation to public charitable registered trust under ATG 50,000. By way of check. Very good. ये सब मार्क करना है. बाय वे ऑफ कैश होगा तो वो ऑटोमेटिकली आउट हो जाएगा. LIC पेंशन फंड, डोनेशन टू नेशनल चिल्ड्रंस फंड, नेशनल वर्ड आ गया, 100% कैटेगरी में इट फॉल्स. ओके. PM केयर्स फंड 100% कैटेगरी. प्रमोशन ऑफ फैमिली प्लानिंग थर्ड कैटेगरी. डिपॉजिट इन PF 120. ये ATC के लिए आ गया. दिस इज ऑल्सो फॉर ATC. This is for ATD. Anything else? No. And this is fourth category. Now, quickly, first step is to calculate your deductions under ATC. ATC में क्या deduction मिलेगा? PPF का 120, लाइफ इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम डॉटर का मैक्सिमम 1,80,000 का कितना मिलेगा? मैक्सिमम 18,000, बिकॉज 20,000 इज अ प्रीमियम, कितना? 18,000। एंड हाँ, 120 प्लस 18, 138. And LIC pension fund, this goes under 80 triple C, 60,000, but all of them combined goes to 1,50,000. 80D में 14 plus 15 not a problem. आपका 25,000 80D में मिल गया, बिकॉज लिमिट दिया हुआ है एज का, तो 25,000 यू गॉट इन 80D. देन वी कम टू नाउ 80G. करें 80G? अब 80G करने से पहले लेट्स फर्स्ट क्विकली कैलकुलेट द एडजस्टेड ग्रॉस टोटल इनकम, व्हिच इज 8,85,000 minus 150 minus 25. करेक्ट? 885 ले लो, सॉरी. 7,10,000 is my adjusted gross total income. So the first, that means my 7,10,000 is adjusted gross total income. 10%, which is the qualifying limit, would be 71,000. So सबसे पहले तो National Children Funds 100% claimed 25,000. PMCF fund 100% claimed 10,000. अब थर्ड कैटेगरी में 40,000 है. My qualifying limit, friends, is 71,000, right? Third category we have 40,000. वो तो 100% is allowed subject to the qualifying limit. Now we come to the fourth category, जहां पे the contribution to the charitable trust is coming to 50,000, right? बट अब 71,000 में से ऑलरेडी 40,000 चला गया, कितना हो गया? 31,000 लेफ्ट. ठीक है, 31,000. अब is there any problem? Okay. So यहाँ पे लिख लेती हूँ ऐसा. 71 minus 40 कितना बचा? 31,000. Now 31,000 और 50,000 दोनों में से विच इज लोअर? 31. तो जिसका खाली 50% इज अलाउड. 50% ऑफ 31 और फोर्थ कैटेगरी में 50,000 और द क्वालिफाइंग लिमिट विच इज लेफ्ट, उसमें से विच एवर इज लोअर उसका ओनली 50% वुड बी अलाउड. सो 31,000 का 50% कम्स टू 15,500. So 15,500 plus 40 plus, so where is it? Plus 25 plus 10 कितना हो गया टोटल? 90,500. So this is your reduction which is allowed here. So whenever a question of third or fourth category comes, first step is to qualify, take your adjusted gross total income. Second step is कि जो भी थर्ड कैटेगरी वाला है वो पूरा का पूरा यू कैन क्लेम सब्जेक्ट टू योर adjusted gross total income. So whatever is the third category वाला, if there is adjusted gross total income, take completely पूरा deduction. ठीक है? Then third step is कि अब जो left adjusted gross total income है और जो फोर्थ कैटेगरी का डोनेशन है, उन दोनों को कंपेयर करके लोअर 50%, लोअर का 50% you have to take as your fourth category का deduction. Got it? This is how you will claim the donations under 80G. Yes, I know your what you say, your ITR form self calculates it, but in exams you have to calculate it yourself. So make sure that it is clear. कैसे याद करना है, कौन सा याद करना है, that is also sorted. Any other doubt इसमें under 80G? Go through the question once, go through all the provision once. If you have any doubt, let me know, please. Give a go ahead if it is clear. Give a no ahead if it is still there a confusion. ETGG is only for individuals. नेक्स्ट डोनेशन इज अंडर 80GGA कैटेगरीज. अब ये अगर आप जैसे ही लिस्ट ऑफ डोनेशंस देखोगे इसमें क्या क्या स्पेसिफाइड कवर है. डिडक्शन इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ डोनेशंस फॉर साइंटिफिक रिसर्च and rural development. And the moment I say this, and you will be like, hey, ma'am, this we have studied somewhere. Yes, you have covered scientific research donations under section 35, subsection 1, clause 3 and 4, or 2 and 3. Rural development we have covered under 35CCA. So they are already there technically, yes. ये किसके लिए होता है, ये कहाँ पे डिडक्शन मिलती है? इन योर पीजीवीपी इनकम. नाउ सपोज आई एम एन एसएससी हु डज नॉट हैव पीजीवीपी इनकम. आई एम अ पर्सन हु इज अ सैलरीड पर्सन, and if I have to make a donation for scientific research, then where will I get the deduction about it? Where will I be able to get the deduction for that? That is under this particular section 80GGA. So if a question of a salaried person comes, or if a question of any SSE comes, who does not have a PGVP income, and is making the following donations: scientific research, rural development, then he can claim your deduction under 80GGA. There is no limit, but not more than 2000 should be in cash. और कोई लिमिट नहीं है इसमें. ठीक है, सिंपल. नेक्स्ट इज योर 80GGB and 80GGC. Both talks about your donation to your political parties. Both of them talk about the donation to political parties. One is for Indian company, which is by GGB. Indian company matlab Indian company is the donor who is making donation to the political parties, and 80GGC is when any SSE other than the Indian company is making the donation. So that goes under 80GGC. Here strictly no cash donations. Both of the sections cover no cash donations. या वो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को डोनेशन दो या उनके सोवेनियर्स वगैरह में कराओ, नो कैश डोनेशंस होनी चाहिए. यू कैन क्लेम 80GGB and 80GGC. So if I am making a donation to political party, I'll claim 80GGC. बाकी सब सेम है इसमें. सो कंपनी होगा तो GGB लगाओगे, नॉन कंपनी होगा तो GGC लगाओगे. Rest is same. Now, before going on to the segment on deduction in respect of certain incomes, I don't want to start ATIA, etc. But I will quickly cover up for you today 80, TTA and TTB. नेक्स्ट क्लास में ये ATIA, ATIB, these are pretty boring. इसमें सनसेट क्लॉजेस याद करने हैं, बिजनेसेस याद करने हैं, छोटे छोटे पॉइंट्स होंगे, बट ऑनेस्टली दे आर बोरिंग, बट विल कवर अप, डोंट वरी. उसमें से इंटरेस्टिंग वन आर 80JJAA, 80JJAA. Then there is interesting one is 80P, which is new, which is interesting. उसके अलावा all of these are pretty theoretical, to be very honest, but no problem. We'll cover up, don't worry. अभी तक किसी में कोई डाउट? आई क्विकली रिपीट ऑल्सो कि हमने क्या क्या कवर कर लिया. Okay, so the next two very, very common section, unsaid available. Correct, Jenny. Unsaidly available to all the SSCs, commonly individuals and HF, is first is 80 double 80 TTA. Now this section is for any individual and HF having interest income from strictly saving bank account. You know what is saving bank account and time deposits? See, time deposits and demand deposits, दो type के होते हैं. Whenever you're making a deposit, basically, time deposits are which will be matured in a time like FD, recurring deposits, etc. Demand deposit is what money you keep it in your saving bank account, which you can quickly take it out without any problem, etc. So saving bank account, when you get interest, generally the interest is almost 4% based upon the balance which you maintain. That interest is your other income. That interest is your other income. And that interest is allowed as deduction up to maximum of 10,000, up to maximum of 10,000. And obviously saving bank account either आप post office में खुलवाते हो और cooperative banks में या normal banks. ठीक है? So maximum is 10,000. But if you are a resident senior citizen, 80 TTA is not for you. 80 TTA is not for you. Why? Because 80 TTB is there. 80 TTB is there for interest on deposits in case of a senior citizen. So naturally, this is not for HF. This is only for individual who is a resident senior citizen. He will get a reduction under 80 TTB. अब यहाँ पे saving words नहीं है. That means all types of deposits. Deposits in the form of fixed deposits, recurring deposits, saving bank deposits, all types of deposits which he or she is getting from a banking company, a cooperative bank, or a post office will be eligible for deduction under section 80 TTB for a maximum of 50,000. So FD interest is taxed under other sources, of saving bank interest is taxed under other sources, but here deduction of both would be allowed up to maximum 50. Suppose my saving bank interest is 5,000, my FD interest is 25,000. So I will get a deduction of 30,000 only. Suppose, and I should be a senior citizen. But if the same situation comes for an individual who is not a senior citizen, then the maximum deduction would be allowed in 80 TTA. Both TTA and TTB cannot be applied in a person return. कि वो TTA भी claim कर रहा है and TTB भी claim कर रहा है. Got it? और यही reason था when this 80 TTB got introduced and the limit was introduced. The 194A TDS का rate, TDS वाला part was also increased. अच्छा, एक क्लॉज 10-15 आता है where a senior citizen जो आपको कहता है कि if you're having any interest from a saving from a post office account, then 10-15 में आप 3,500 या 7,000 in case of joint holders you can claim the exemption. ठीक है, अब 10-15 में you claim the exemption. So suppose I have a post office saving interest, post office के savings interest है मेरा 10,000 rupees. So पहले I will claim the exemption of 3,500 and then whatever is the remaining amount will qualify for the limit of 80 TTB. Got it? सो दोनों मत कर देना कि एग्जेम्पशन भी ले रहे हैं 10-15 में और एटीटीटी बी भी ले रहे हैं रिमेनिंग अमाउंट में, दिस इज ऑब्वियस कॉमन सेंस। सो अभी तक हमने क्या क्या डिडक्शंस कवर करी हैं, इफ आई हैव टू क्विकली रिवाइज इट फॉर यू, इज 80C फॉर ETC for payment of life insurance, educations, PPF contributions, PF contribution, repayment of housing loan, certain small saving schemes, pension funds, fixed deposits वगैरह इंडिविजुअल और एचएफ को मिलेगा मैक्सिमम 150। 80CCC LIC pension annuity fund individual only 1,50,000। 80CCD subsection 1 individual 10% of salary or otherwise 20% of gross total income for non-employees, that is for a contribution to NPS or Atal Pension Yojana। 80C plus 80CC triple C plus 80CCD subsection 1 cannot exceed 1,50,000। Then we did 80CCD subsection 1B, again individual only 50,000। 80CCD subsection 2 employer's contribution to NPS individual up to 14% of salary in case of central government or state government employees, or otherwise 10% and 14% from this year for 115 BACSSEs। Then we did 80CC H subsection 2 contribution to Agniveer Corpus individual को मिलेगा 100% of the contribution। Then we did 80D individual and HUF strictly health insurance premium policies, preventive health checkup, contribution to CGHS and expenditure on medical treatment maximum 1 lakh। 1 lakh कैसे हुआ 50-50 अगर दोनों 60-60 है, ठीक है। Then 80DD maximum 75,000 or 1,25,000 flat deduction for resident individual or HUF for expenditures which or payments which they make for the insurance premium for the benefit of a family member suffering from any disability and who is dependent on them। 80DDB medical treatment or for a prescribed disease, medical treatment of a prescribed disease or ailment only to resident individual or HUF 40,000 and 1 lakh in case of senior citizen maximum limit। 80E no limit but whatever the interest is paid for education loan taken for higher education maximum 8 assessment years। 80EE maximum limit 50,000 only for individual for loan sanction between 16 and 17, other conditions please fulfill। 80EEA 1,50,000 maximum deductions for loan sanction between for a residential property for between 1st April 19 to 31st March 2022। 80EEB for loan sanction between April 19 to 31st March 23, maximum 1,50,000 for electric vehicle। 80G 50% or 100% based on the criteria. This is for any SSC donations to specific funds। 80GG individual only 60,000 maximum donation payment for rent for residential house property। 80GGA scientific research, rural development, any SSC not having business and profession income, because if they have business and profession income, they will claim under that 35 CCA list। 100% donation allowed। 80GGB 100% donation allowed for payment to political parties by Indian company। 80GGC 100% donation for political parties by any person other than your Indian companies, 100% donation allowed। Then we did your 80IEs while this time leaving। 80 U resident individual 75,000 in case of normal disability, 1,25,000 for several disability। 80 TTA 10,000 individual and HUF for interest earned on saving bank account। 80 TTB individual resident senior citizen only 50,000 for interest earned from any bank deposits including fixed deposits। So almost out of 36 or 30, I think we have covered how much? Roughly we have covered 20 deductions up till now, 20, more than 20 rather, up till now। हो जाएगा क्विकली, सबको याद हो जाएगा। आई थिंक अभी व्हेन आई वाज रिपीटिंग यू वर एबल टू रिकॉल। परफेक्ट। 115 बीएससी खाली किस किस को मिलेगा? 115 बीएससी 80 115 बीएससी को कौन कौन सा डोनेशन मिलेगा? एटीसीसीडी सबसेक्शन 2 एंड एटीसीसीसी सब एटीसीसीएच सबसेक्शन 2, और आगे भी आएगा एटीजेजेएएन एटीएलए वो मिलेगा। एंड कोई भी डिडक्शन इज नॉट अलाउड फ्रॉम योर स्पेशल इनकम, जो 111 ए 112 ए 115 ए 115 ए बी 11 कोई भी स्पेशल इनकम से यू डू नॉट गेट द डिडक्शन बेसिकली। और अभी जो नेक्स्ट क्लास में हम करेंगे डिडक्शंस, उनको क्लेम करने के लिए यू हैव टू फाइल द रिटर्न विद इन द ड्यू डेट। सो दिस इज ऑल अबाउट इट। आई नो वी हैव गुड 20-30 minutes 20 minutes, बट आई थिंक आज इतना इज मोर देन इनफ टू absorb. Do all the questions in respect to these 20 deductions. Next class may we'll pick up. First, we'll start with my favorite section, ATJJAA. We'll do QQB, QRRB, ATP, which are the interesting ones, and then we'll come to the tax holidays one, which are conditions which you have to remember quickly. We'll do that, okay? And then we'll do 10AA. Perfect. All happy and satisfied from the today's class? Anyone has any feedback to share? No feedback, nothing. समझ आया, मजा आया? आज का तो इंटरेस्टिंग था बिकॉज आज वाला क्लास इज लाइक वन कैन रिलेट टू द टॉपिक। हो जाएगा टाइम आराम से। मेक नोट्स प्लीज, प्लीज बी वेरी अप टू डेट, एंड ऐसे ही रिवाइज करना है ऑन गोइंग ऑफ गोइंग में। गॉट इट। ठीक है। सो थैंक यू सो मच एवरीवन, सी यू ऑल इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास, विश यू गाइस ऑल द बेस्ट। थैंक यू। The class host. Yes, yes.